Right there, down.
Nope.
Up, right there, right.
Oh, God. It's a little old, but Chinese parents sell children to pay for video game addiction. This is 2011 by the Huffington Post.
Okay. I got it. I think we're ready to roll. Welcome everybody to Strike Team Game Presents Level 4 XP, and welcome back to the show, welcome back to the stream, and just in general, welcome back. We're going to have some more gaming news for you as of August 29th, 2021. This will be all your gaming news that we've collected throughout the week. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce who I'm here with.
Irishguy, a.k.a. Mike.
This is Doc. Zmainia.
Welcome everybody, I'm Game Boy. As previously mentioned, we're going to go ahead and give you a list of everything that's debuted in the gaming news world for the last upcoming week. So thank you again for coming back to us. A few announcements before we get too carried away. First and foremost, we have been, as of this recent weekend, welcomed to Amazon Music as a podcast, as well as Reason Podcast as well. So just two more websites that you're going to be able to come in and check out and listen to us on as well. So go ahead and give those a listen. Both of those links to those podcast services will be listed in our Linktree down below. The second piece of news is come one more day, Extra Life is doing a fundraising campaign. So if we raise $150 within the next 24 hours, we're going to be able to be sent and shipped a set of customized D&D dice. So kill two birds with one stone here, raise money for kids who need it, as well as, get us a set of dice as well. Money goes directly to the Children's Hospital here in Sacramento, UC Davis Children's Hospital. So make sure that if you check out the Linktree, make sure you also look and check out the Extra Life fundraiser listed in the episode description below. Without further ado, you guys ready to get started?
Never.
Yep.
Alrighty, so as previously mentioned, this is going to be your gaming news as of the 29th. Guys, usually what I like to do is pay attention to all gaming conventions that happen. Some time ago, we did E3 as one of the conventions that we pay attention to. This most recent weekend, I think it was, if not this recent month, is going to be Gamescom. So did anybody watch it or anybody familiar with it at all?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it before. I don't know. I think I've seen it before, but that was about it.
So Gamescom usually kind of hints and is directed mostly towards the Xbox side of things. It's one of the terms that they've kind of coined. And in this particular setting, they announced a whole bunch of new games and updates to their games. I'm going to skim through just kind of a few of the stories that were taking place during that time. And if anything piques your interest, you guys can just chime in at kind of whenever. So the first thing that they did announce was there's pretty much the article that I have from IGN is the lineup, the schedule, and what they featured. The first thing that they announced was Marvel's Midnight Suns officially announced. This game is now set to release September 1st, 2021, or the game is set to be released March 2022. And they have a gameplay reveal that's going to happen September 1st in 2021. It's a new strategy game from Firaxis Games, and it looks to be a super powered version of the studio's XCOM franchise. And the focus is going to be on superheroes like Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Captain America, Wolverine, Captain Marvel, and more. That was the first one that debuted. Did anybody... Ronnie, I know this is a big comic book one. Are you familiar with the Midnight Suns?
Honestly, no. Some of these are, I don't pay attention to as much.
I know I've played XCOM with our buddy Matt. It's a fun game. I'm not sure how they'll. I mean, I can imagine how they'll do a Marvel one, but I'm not 100% sure how they'll do it. But it should be fun.
Yeah, I know I have some friends that'll definitely be getting this, but I'll probably just play it when I'm over at their house.
Next one on their list was Horizon Forbidden West. Has been confirmed to have a 2022 release date. This game has been delayed and pretty much pawned off for one reason or another, but it officially has a February 18th, 2022 release window. With the help of to help with the wait, they have offered a 60 FPS patch for Horizon Zero Dawn. That was the next major announcement out of Gamescom for this game. And I have kind of cherry-picked which ones, I feature.
Yeah, I haven't really played any of the Horizon games. I'm not a huge racing game.
Different Horizon.
Yeah,
That's Forza.
that's
Horizon.
Forza Horizon.
Yeah, this
Whatever.
one's more of like
It's
tropical.
Yeah, it's like if mecha dinosaurs took over the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I still never played it.
I've never played it, but I've seen stuff of it. Looked interesting. I just never got into it.
The Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga gets gameplay trailer and a spring 2022 release window, as well as Metroid Dread has an official second trailer with an October 8th, 2020 release window as well. I know my dumb ass is going to be coming in, buying the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah.
Any of those interest anybody?
I have some of the Lego games because they were free with Epic.
Yeah.
In the Epic Game Store, but I haven't even played them.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Legos games, Star Wars especially, but I don't usually go out of my way to buy them unless it's for one of my cousins that happen to come over. I think I've bought 2 Lego games, and both of them were because of that. I mean, they're fun. I just don't go out of my way to play them by myself.
Alrighty. So the next piece I have is last week, Mike, you had an article that hinted at a potential Saints Row reboot or remaster.
Yeah.
And we all kind of anticipated that it was going to be the remaster of the original game. Well, the franchise has since officially been announced at Gamescom as officially rebooted. From Game Informer, they showed off a trailer for the new game. It was pretty quirky, as most Saints Row games are. It had the gangster feel. It looked like it was set in an Arizona Breaking Bad-esque type, environment. There wasn't a whole lot of detail on. The article I have here obviously details more information, but just look at base, it looks like it's going to be kind of like your typical Saints Row, but it's going to be more targeted towards an audience of today's caliber. Tweeting, not gentrification, but people who use Instagram and stuff like that. It's going to be focused. Seems like it's focused more around that as opposed to gangsters of the 20th century. Set to release on all systems and platforms February 25th, 2022.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And one thing, since we're talking Saints Row, I believe it's until September either 2nd or the 9th. It is the free game it is one of the free games with the Epic Game Store. It's the remastered of, I think, the original. I don't remember.
Saints Row the Third.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I saw that today.
So yeah, just if you haven't got it, go out and get it, claim it at least. Don't have to download it, but you can get it for free.
Yeah, it looks like it ends on the 2nd at 3 p.m., but I'm not seeing a time zone.
I believe it's Pacific.
Pacific?
Specifically.
Oh, as opposed to Atlantically.
Don't everybody stay awake. Cat Dog and April O'Neil are coming to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. When I think of this game, I kind of think of like these are not characters I would suspect, but if you look at games like Super Smash Brothers, you know, whatever, right?
That's half of what they
So
do,
just by that picture that you just had of Leonardo, it looks like it's a Nickelodeon version of Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I took away from it. PlayStation did one as well. It was Sony, like, Brawl Stars or something like that.
I remember Cartoon Network also did something like that a while ago on their website.
They still have it.
Nice.
It's
I think
part
they've
of
actually made actual video games, not just on their website. This was back when I was a young lad.
I will point out though that the chick from Hey Arnold
Yeah.
appears to be a little too excited about getting decked off a map by a Ninja Turtle.
Well, I mean, she is constantly getting
She's-
turned down, basically, or at least in her head, she is. Even though she
I mean,
never
she's
really asked him
probably
out
yelling,
for the whole
but-
show.
She is.
Yeah. She yells a
lot.
lot.
So anyway, it's not even out yet, but these characters have been revealed. The famous reporter from the Ninja Turtles series has already had a Gamescom spotlight, and this game is supposed to be released. Doesn't say. I don't see it, so it doesn't say. But yeah, these two characters have been announced for a game that has yet to even come out yet. So I anticipate this is just a company kind of building hype right now.
All
You
right.
guys, along with like SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, the Rugrats, Invader Zim, Thornberries, and what they anticipate being a whole bunch more.
I mean, it'd be interesting. I'm not a huge fan of Smash, mainly because I suck at it.
That's fair.
But I think, I mean, bringing all these, like, childhood cartoon characters into something like that might be kind of fun. That being said, depending on the price, I don't see myself going to get it just because I generally suck at these kind of games. But if it's something that's free or cheap, I'll probably at least try it out.
I definitely anticipate this being one of those ones that goes on Game Pass either day one, or if it doesn't, this is going to be a game that I anticipate seeing go to discount on some form of store moments after it's released.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have Game Pass. But yeah.
That requires money.
Well, no, what I'm saying is
You're talking to cheapo.
right, but what I'm saying is that, you know, a lot of the games either are going on Game Pass or, you know, they're going to Game Pass usually from what a lot of what now, you know, Forza Horizon, Halo. And then, you know, if this doesn't end up being one of those games, then I anticipate it, you know, being a game that goes as
It'll be
a deal.
discounted.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Division 2 did.
correct.
Gotcha.
Everything good over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
So from Game Informer, I have here the Xbox games with gold for September. The free games that you'll get for your gold subscription have been revealed. This includes Warhammer Chaos Bane, available from the 1st to the 30th, and Maluka, available from the 16th to October 15th. And then the 360 versions that are free from those same dates in corresponding order are Zones of the Enders and Samurai Showdown 2. Both going to be...
Zones of the Ender is only from the 1st to the 15th, not the 1st to the 30th, which is what the first one is.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the correction.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Speaking of D&D dice, I
The
found
pair
this
every
art.
serious gamer of the tabletop genre needs.
So one of the things I will say about Arby's is if they're not known for their food, they're definitely known for their social media content. I don't know if anybody here has actually followed or seen any of the advertisements on Arby's, like the stuff they do with their cardboard cutout boxes and stuff, but they're heavy on the social media stuff and connecting with things like that. Like when Final Fantasy Remake was coming out, they had the Buster Sword in the sandwich.
Oh,
I know they're like really big into gaming
Yeah.
stuff in general.
I just wish they put the same amount of effort from social media as they do into their food. I've never had an issue personally, but almost anybody I've ever talked to about Arby's has always reported less than happy experiences after leaving. Do
I
with
think
that information what you will.
Arby's is one of the companies that is. I think most companies are individually owned, so they do have a standard to go by, but they're not like the people who monetize them. They come out like once a month to look at stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But yeah,
it's pretty horrible.
yeah, they got the meats, but the customers tend to have the, you know what.
So I went ahead and linked both the link to the article as well as the link to the Arby's shop because I clicked on it and it's like big ass, like it's in your face. We're selling these dice.
Oh yeah.
But apparently, people asked about this stuff and asked, and Arby's is like, fine, here's some D&D dice. So it goes full circle. You can buy D&D dice for Arby's, and if we raise $150, we get Extra Life D&D dice. It all comes full circle.
That being said, at the time of recording, they are sold out. I actually saw this article at work the day that it came out on the 26th at relatively early in the day. I think it was actually before work, like 6:30 in the morning, 6:50, just before around 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it even said at the time of writing the article, they are sold out. That being said, they did have a notification system for when they will be back in stock. So I naturally signed up for it.
That's better than Xbox and PlayStation.
Right.
Oh, it does say right there at the bottom of my article there that they are sold out. But restocks are happening soon, so if you're interested, just submit your email to the website. They're only $12. I mean, and they look
pretty nice.
they look
Right.
pretty nice.
I take it
yeah.
it's a full standard set.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie.
So there's actually an Arby's not too far from my work. And like I saw the article and I'm like, oh, I'm going to Arby's for lunch. Get me some dice. And then I read the article and I'm like, oh. And then I went to the link and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Very sad.
Yeah, so that's yeah.
I was kind of hoping Ronnie might have been here before I went to this one, but beggars can't be choosers. The Matrix Resurrections title, trailer, and details have been revealed and confirmed. The new Matrix movie is going to be titled Matrix Resurrections. The title was announced alongside the first trailer for the upcoming film at CinemaCon, the annual convention for the National Association of Theater Owners in Las Vegas. It's supposed to hit theaters and release on HBO Max December 22nd. And the first official confirmation of the movie's title has been rumored for several months, has been confirmed as well. It's going to be called Resurrections. There hasn't been, as for the trailer though, although it has been released to the public, reports have filtered back that it contains what it contains for those lucky enough to see it at CinemaCon. And it's going to star Jessica Henwick, Ellen Hallman, Jonathan Groff, I'm not going to pronounce that, Daniel Bernhardt, and it's going to be directed by Lena Wachowski, who co-directed the previous 3 movies with her sister Lily.
Priyanka Chopra.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I wasn't sure, so I wasn't going to try.
I'm not 100 on that, but I feel phonetically
Yeah,
I'm in the ballpark.
Close enough.
Yeah.
So I I had some opinion. The only reason I included this was because I thought my movie buff might have an opinion about it. I have opinions about the Matrix trilogy because they put so much I feel like this is just pretty much nostalgia. Remember?
Yeah.
Because the whole premise of the trailers for Matrix Revolution was everything that has a beginning has an end. And they beat home that the Matrix Revolution was supposed to be the end. And now I get the Resurrections title. And the same article that I have here hinted that Neo has no memory of the Matrix or the real world, and Trinity also doesn't have any remembrance of it. I don't know.
That'll be interesting.
So there's no trailer. Damn it.
Not yet, but actually there is, but it was only shown to people at CinemaCon, and that's the annual convention of theater owners.
Yeah, us common folk who don't own theaters are gonna have to wait.
Hey, there we go. We can invest in a movie theater.
We can get previews even before the actual previews get released for everybody else, the plebs, if you will.
That is a thought that I actually have. Like, what if we just anyway.
Yeah, open one up right before COVID.
Right. So, look at this. Behold it. And at first glance, before I reveal who it's from or what it is, what are your thoughts on it?
So Xbox controller.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting design with the semi-fogged plastic on the front.
Pink, gold, and blue.
Artsy.
If you had to give two guesses, which game this is inspired for?
I'm trying to rack my brain. I can't think of anything.
Something that's coming up.
Yes.
Why am I drawing a blank? I keep thinking Cyberpunk, but I obviously know that's not what it is.
No. I don't think anybody's investing in that game anymore.
I don't know.
I don't follow games as much.
Forza Horizon 5 limited edition Xbox controller has been discounted at Walmart. It was $75, but now it's dropped to $69.
Nice.
Giggity. It's a, where is it? Wireless Xbox controller, and it revealed to be Bluetooth enabled.
I would hope so.
So that was from that controller. I thought that might be interesting. You can see how light and kind of blah everything's been in the gaming news world as of late, which I guess kind of goes hand in hand to what we talked about before.
So it's the 5th installment? Huh.
Yeah.
And this is the Horizon I was thinking of earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody makes a left turn.
So do you think the Bluetooth they're talking about is regular Bluetooth or Xbox's proprietary blend?
So my thought is that like with your phone or with any Bluetooth headset, I don't know who uses Bluetooth earpieces for cell phones anymore, but I think that's what they kind of think of it.
I hope so.
Not necessarily, because Xbox Cloud, they have mobile gaming now.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
So if I remember correctly, some headsets, like I've bought a couple true wireless headsets for Xbox, and I don't remember testing this, but I remember hearing that you can't connect them to like regular devices because they're a proprietary blend of, or like they're, Bluetooth. They like took Bluetooth and made it their own way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They have it at their own frequency.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like slight changes because Bluetooth is open source. And
So it's like
theirs
green
isn't.
tooth.
Yeah, green tooth. They should probably get that checked out because
I was so
it is pretty bad.
They're over there. I'm over here. I'm like, I was so concerned what I saw over there.
You good over there, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just sorry. Going to the previous one, Neil Patrick Harris is in Matrix
Really?
Resurrection. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
That's why I was
Okay with
like,
that.
He's going to be revising his role as Barney Stinson.
Suit up. No, it says Keanu Reeves plays a character in therapy who tells his therapist, played by Neil Patrick Harris, that he had a dream. He had dreams that weren't just dreams. So when I read Neil Patrick Harris, I was just like,
That's gonna be a great
yes. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I am a big Matrix fan, so
I'm willing to bet right now that that therapist is not just going to be a therapist.
Oh yeah,
He's
most
gonna
definitely.
he's gonna last more than just that one scene.
Yeah, it's Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
He's the new architect. That's my prediction.
Oh,
You heard it here first.
The end of the new trilogy, because it's probably gonna be a new trilogy. It has to be. You heard it here first.
But the controller, we see this every once in a while where, you know, the newer game comes out, they splash something cool, but then it never really pans out the way. Coming off the Bluetooth, so right now we're in Bluetooth 5. I think that's the main thing that's really pushing right now, and so the frequency that pushes has better connection, and I think that's what a lot of the newer controllers are. Even though they say it's mixed, I think they probably, for the older games, have some of the older Bluetooth technology in it versus the newer stuff.
Yeah, I can't stand the Xbox proprietary blend because those headsets that are true wireless for Xbox, so they can't be used on PlayStation because of the Bluetooth. Yeah, they're the only headsets I've ever had where I can be within, like, closer than me to you of the device I'm connected to and still have my headset just disconnect.
Yeah, that sounds like...
Without anything in between us.
Yeah, that sounds like it's an older version, or they're trying to run off of a semi-secured version that Bluetooth...
It's Xbox's proprietary blend of terrible Bluetooth, or as it's been so appropriately called, green tooth, because it's gangrenous and it needs to be pulled out.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys were ready. So the next controller merchandise that's been revealed is the Halo Infinite Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. God, that's a mouthful. I don't have an article attached to it. I just saw it on Facebook from IGN that this is the controller. It looks very Halo-esque.
Oh,
I'm not going to lie. So I think for the audience that's trying to target and everything, and for, you know, for what it is, I think it looks relatively cool, decent.
I hate that I have a Series 2 Elite controller and that I don't have this one.
Honestly,
I think the 117 lights up.
I might pick this.
Like, look at the 117.
I know, it
Doesn't
looks
look
like
like
it,
it.
yeah. I am most definitely going to probably pick up the Hex too. Or no, the Hikes. Is it Hikes? HIXES.
What?
Huh?
If you abbreviate it.
HIXES2. Yeah.
Yeah, Hikes.
Okay. I was
Oh,
like,
okay,
what
okay.
are you reading?
Oh,
I'm looking
right.
over there like
Xbox
there's actual
Elite
words that
Series
spell
2.
this.
Yep.
Not all of
Hikes
us are
too.
awake.
Gosh, people, come on.
Hikes too.
We're in the age of abbreviation.
All right. I do this to you guys every time, but I apologize. We have now gotten into the
Your new
drama.
haircut? This isn't your new haircut? That's why you're wearing the hat?
I would
That's
not
what your hair
take
looks like?
anything. I would not portray any of my persona after this asshat. But let's just say I sympathize with him for a minute, okay? For a minute. The next 60 seconds. Has anybody heard anything about Dr. Disrespect lately?
Yes.
Go for it.
Well, in a recent stream, he said that he knows why he was banned. Hasn't gone public with it. He's known for, I think he said, a couple months, and that is why he is, and I quote, suing the fuck out of Twitch. End quote. I'm assuming he's not going into detail due to the ongoing lawsuit,
Right.
but yeah, that. And then I also, well, I'll let you finish your thing on that. And then
Yeah, essentially you hit it nail on the head. He's suing him. He actually revealed this during a recent stream. I don't think anybody here actually knows for sure why he got banned. You know, we could speculate all day.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, you know, if it's for something that, like, so Louder with Crowder did this. He sued YouTube because they said that he did a bunch of shit on his channel that he didn't actually do. Or he's like, they didn't give detail as to why, right? So I anticipate that if Twitch's TOS have anything to do with how, like, flagrantly or gray area that it is, that he might have a case. But again, nobody knows why this guy got knocked off Twitch. And even to this day, the only thing we have to go on is he saw it when it happened during his stream, the last stream he did on Twitch. So I would hate.
Yeah, that's why he's suing the F out of the purple snakes, as he likes to call them.
Oh yeah, that was one, huh?
Yeah.
It's just another case of he got. I was just watching South Park, of where all the people that got caught pretty much with their pants down are now trying to manipulate the situation to where people forget or they just don't get caught. I think this is kind of one of those situations where he got caught with something. And until records come out, I honestly think he got caught with something.
Yeah.
So
we'll find out as soon, because no lawsuit has been filed yet. Because I've kind of been looking for stuff on this. But no lawsuit's been filed yet. So as soon as there is some lawsuit, we will have some details, because it is all going to be public record.
Yeah. You know, well, guilt, or I almost said guilty until proven innocent. Innocent until proven guilty. So I guess Twitch is innocent right now.
okay, so let's do. So how many of us actually don't care about this particular story? Show of hands.
I don't really care. I'm
So
interested to
no.
know-
What I mean, as in, like, we're not gonna bring it up again, kind of deal. Don't care. Not. I'm gonna follow. I don't care enough to not follow it.
Well, I mean, when it comes out, because it's whenever the suit happens, it's going to be on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, whatever.
Let's put it this way. Until anything substantial or more news than, yeah, I'm suing them, comes out, I don't really care. But once there's been real development, I would be interested in going over it.
So you do care.
Based off of the context that I said, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's what
I'm in the same boat.
So you do care, because until something comes up.
In the meantime, I don't care, but like I'm not.
Okay. Let me just get to what I'm trying to get at. So, Ronnie, you said that you think he got caught with his pants down on something, and now he's trying to feign victim.
I did not have sexual relations with that man.
So let's that's an
First,
interest.
Shelby.
It's an interesting thing that he brought up, because it's like I just prefaced the story as, let me just sympathize with him for a minute, right? And he says no, he got caught with his pants down. So that's what I was going to do. I was going to take a vote. Who thinks Twitch is in the wrong? Who thinks no, Twitch did something kind of shady, kind of sketchy? You know, they tried to say he did something to violate their TOS, which, as we know, these companies like to throw out with no fucking proof, too. And then who's saying, no, Dr. Disrespect's in the wrong. You clearly did something wrong, and now you're being told to pay the price for it, and that price is you losing your channel. That's what it's hitting at.
I think he's going to try to sue for whatever it is. It's probably going to be under the guidelines of
Breach of contract.
either breach of contract or what's the thing to your character?
Defamation.
of character.
Yeah, so it's either going to be one of those two. That's what he's really trying to sue for, not what he actually got terminated for.
That could very well be.
Makes a lot of
Also, one
sense.
other thing with this, he did say it is a 8-figure, 8 figures that he's losing out on. So it's at least $10 million. And he did say if it wasn't like they'd be in negotiations right now, because I guess the contract ended in would have ended in September. For what he had.
Alrighty. Uh-oh. Wrong window. Okay. Now we have gotten to our Activision Blizzard nonsense. And I do say nonsense because, you know, one would think, like, a lot of this stuff that you're finding out, especially about this company, should be pretty clear. Cut and dry, right? Someone has done wrong. You get rid of those people who have done wrong, right? And that'd be the end of it. But apparently we're still going through the rigmarole of investigations and other stuff and name changes. And name changes essentially brings me to my next article, is that the Overwatch development team changes McCree's name in light of Activision lawsuit. this goes back to what I was saying last week about how you want to immortalize good people. You don't want to immortalize, the bad people. And I do have 3 videos that I'm gonna watch of 2 different opposing reactions to this situation, kind of get your guys' feel for it and where everybody's mindset is at who plays and loves this game. So anyway, I'm not gonna read the opening. It's the same thing we've kind of talked about last 4 or 5 weeks. Frat boy party culture, sexual harassment, Bill Cosby suite. One of those people was Diablo 4's lead director, Jesse McCree. The official, and I do have that. The official Twitter page shared a new message with fans explaining that why they felt this change was necessary and while the company wrestles with where to go next. Now, I'll have that at the end so we can all read, but we'll go over it in a minute. We realize that any change to such a well-loved and central hero in the game's fiction will take time to roll out correctly, and we'll update those as the work progresses. So, pretty much we don't know what the new name is going to be. We just know for sure that McCree's name is going to change. I don't know how to roll this into something that kind of relates to us, because I don't have necessarily an attachment to this. This is a MOBA, you know the character by name because it's hard for me to explain, but like that character has a set of abilities and that's that character. So I'm just kind of interested in to see what the name is going to change and whether or not this is going to be something that continues to be an ongoing, how long can we roll this out process?
Yeah.
Or if they're waiting for it to just kind of be like swept under the rug.
One other thing that I saw with this, I had an article that was similar to this. Mm-hmm. It said they are also going to stop naming characters after employees or after real people.
Yeah.
It's probably smart.
Just because of this situation.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to have to do this again.
Yeah, exactly. Going forward,
there'll never be a circumstance which would
warrant the situation.
Warrant such a situation, yes. But yeah.
Going forward, in-game characters will no longer be named after real employees, and there will be more thoughtful and discerning about adding real-world references in future Overwatch content. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead. So there's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and bring up 3 videos that I captured about this, and this kind of details what's going on, in everybody's head. I was only able to find 2 people. The first one is going to be Super, San Francisco Shock's main tank for the Overwatch League, and he had a pretty vocal reaction. Wait, where'd it go? I guess I didn't bring it up. Whatever.
No, that is it.
Yeah, he had a pretty vocal reaction to what's going on. This is from a channel called Noob Hunter. So I kind of took it from them because I periodically watch them.
People are saying shit like, oh, this is just performative. Blizzard solving sexism. Fucking Blizzard, wow, good job. They did it. You fucking dumb fucks. You cannot compare the developers of the game to the corporate overlords. The developers can't change the fucking company policy. It starts at the top, dumbasses. Why are these people so fucking stupid? These people are so dumb.
So he pretty much is saying there is that, okay, cool. You've dunked on the developers of this game, but the developers aren't the one that are. You got to do something from change from the top, not necessarily worry so much about the developers. And at that, I just was wondering, do you agree with what he just said there, or do you disagree? Because, and on one hand, it very well could necessarily be that could be victim blaming, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the coin, he does have a point. You can't blame developers for changes that people in a seniority or supervisory management position are refusing to acknowledge and are refusing to change.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when you get into anything like that, everything stems from some point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You have a manager that is corrupted by power. All it does is take one person to cause the effect of how everything changes.
Right.
And that's the thing is like where it could have been somebody that doesn't work at the company anymore that started this. Maybe one of these people that all quote unquote left way before this really hit the fan started something like this. We don't know. We're just being told what's currently active going on with the company.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to business, it comes to this is everybody or everybody who has a big company. What's making me money? If that's making me money, all right, I'm not going to pay attention to this other stuff. It always, they cut corners, whatever it is. You are name blaming in a sense because you're like, oh, no, it's them or it's this or that. Honestly, unless somebody is dedicated to making sure everything is running fine, you're nitpicking if you're micromanaging every single thing, there's stuff going to fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to fall through the cracks to where they're going to overuse their power, whatever. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. You can blame who you want to blame. Eventually, if it wasn't now, something like this was bound to happen. And it's sad to say because that is actually human society, or that is human. It is. It's
human nature.
It's human
in
nature.
Society.
Because it's not just this. If you look throughout our entire history, stuff like this has happened. I mean, like I just said a little bit ago about the policy with, South Park, where they're talking about all the presidents and all these other people that got caught with stuff that, they shouldn't have. It's that whole sense of they got caught. Now we're going to try to fix it. And unless they got caught, nothing was going to change.
Yeah.
So South Park did it. That's all I got to say.
So this is later in the same stream. He pretty much talks about
No one's gonna be happy at this point. Blizzard can't. They're in a fucking catch-22. If they keep in like Cree or McCree, people are gonna get upset that
Yo, super.
they're
you with the young 77 known
that they're not doing enough. And then if they do change the McCree part or the Cree part, then there's gonna be people saying that they're like catering to like snowflake. Like they're not gonna win. No matter what they do, they're fucked. So at this point, fucking the Overwatch.
I want to thank Super for all the F-bombs because now we're up to like 13. I forgot
I lost
that.
count,
Yeah, I forgot that he did that. So he's essentially saying there that Blizzard is pretty much screwed because they can, if they choose to keep aspects of McCree's name in, someone's going to be offended by it. Because I don't know, it goes.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, because like
very famous thing of this Salem Witch Project, not Salem Witch Project, but Salem Witches.
Mm.
You're a heretic. What happened? Oh, we start shaming these people. You literally shame these people. One, because either you don't know their backstory.
Right.
You had a child out of wedlock. Well, you don't know their backstory of how they got to that. And that was in the age before we have what we have of like where they can abort the child. And even then nowadays, women are being ridiculed because of that, and they don't know their story behind that. And it's the peer pressure of people doing this, and that's what society does. And that's why our society is so messed up, because when some person has the right mind and can say the right words, and you can turn a crowd against one person. And we've seen it done many of times, and one bad thing like this. Mm-hmm. They are in a catch-22. No matter what's going to be done, no matter what they do, no one's going to be happy. And that's the one thing I do tell my wife. No matter how much you please, you can't please everybody, no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. So stop stressing about it, because you're never going to please everybody. So
This final one comes from a streamer and pro Overwatch player by the name of Red Shell. He is a prominent top 500 support player, and he had a different point of view on this whole situation.
Let's see how many more F-bombs we get.
Right.
I don't like how they're telling us, oh, we were gonna release new content, but we're just not going to because of his name. And I think that's just very bullshit. Like, dude, we haven't received new content in 2 years. Like, who are you lying to? You know? So apparently the only way to get new content from Overwatch is canceling the fucking game, canceling the characters. Like, I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I've lost count.
He only had one.
Yeah, he had the S word.
So
That's a good amount for
so he had a different. So
That word's acceptable though.
So previously, Super was saying, it's catch-22. You change the name, you cater to snowflakes. You don't change the name, people are going to be in uproar. Why are we still remembering this person? Red Shell saying, the only way that we're going to get new content is if you change the name. And that's not right. It takes literally a lawsuit for you guys to jump up and finally decide to make content for your game.
Well,
it's pretty ridiculous.
It's like what we talked about. They're losing revenue, and they're trying to keep people interested in the game. Now, especially since you have Valorant, you have Fortnite, all these other games that are being released for this stuff. They're seeing they thought that they were going to be able to bounce back from this, because I noticed that a lot of I play Hearthstone, one of their products, and I noticed within the last month they've had a lot of stuff drop, and a lot of features and a lot of this and that, and I think those were probably dropped ahead of schedule than what they were expecting, was because they're losing revenue on this stuff because of this lawsuit. Because a lot of big name streamers and all that stuff have abandoned them.
So this is pretty much, I pulled this directly from the Twitter page for Play Overwatch. We built the Overwatch universe on the idea that exclusivity, equity, and hope are the building blocks of a better future. They are central to the game and to the Overwatch team.
I just want to interrupt. It's inclusivity, not exclusivity.
Oh, yeah.
You want to include people, not exclude.
Yeah.
No, they want to exclude people.
Yeah, certain people. As we continue to discuss how best to live up to the values and to demonstrate our commitment to creating a game world that reflects them, we believe it's necessary to change the name of a hero currently known as McCree to something that better represents what Overwatch stands for. We realize that any change to such a well-loved and central hero in the game's fiction will take time to roll out correctly, and we will share the updates as this work progresses. In the near term, we have planned to kick off a narrative arc in September supported with the new story and game content, of which McCree was a key part. Since we want to integrate this change into the story arc, we will be delaying the new arc until later this year, and instead launching a new FFA map free-for-all this September. Going forward, in-game characters will no longer be named after employees, and we will be more thoughtful and discerning about adding real-world references to in future Overwatch content. This will help reinforce what we're building, a fictional universe that is unmistakably different from the real world, and better illustrates that this creation of Overwatch is truly a team effort. Work on these updates is underway, and we're going to be doing our part, our ongoing commitment to honest reflection, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read the rest of it. Anyway, essentially what they're saying is, now that we're in hot water, we're going to make sure our updates and everything going forward will change and reflect that. The part of this that I'm bothered by is that they say that this is a fictional universe that is unmistakably different from the real world. First of all, Rialto, London, Kings Row.
Completely non-real.
These aren't real life locations.
No.
100%.
Petra,
They're all fictional.
Temple Anubis.
Can't you tell by the name?
We came up with that.
Right.
Nobody ever thought of
So you can't give us, these are fake.
No copying infringement.
Right. No, you can't give us that. So that was the last piece that I had.
All right, that's all yours.
Go ahead.
That's all information or worlds and all that stuff. They're based on some type of reality or some other type of fiction. So now I had a question. Is McCree his last name or is that his first?
That's his last name.
So is the first name him or the last name?
The full name is him.
The guy, I think they said the guy's name was Jesse McCree.
Jesse McCree.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the actual.
That's the name of the developer, and that's the name of
The
the
name of
character.
the character is
Okay.
McCree.
I just didn't know if it was
Jesse
like
McCree is the name of the character.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it
It's just everybody calls him McCree.
Yeah,
That's
that
his
could-
name when you're selecting it.
right.
I
But
don't
the
pay
lore.
No. I got you.
You should just name him John McClee.
I was about to say, like with Halo.
John McClane.
Yeah.
No.
That's
Well,
a real, that's
no,
a real
technically-
hero in that he was in war, so he's considered a hero.
Oh.
Whether or not you like him, liked him, but yeah, like with Master Chief, his real name is John, but he's almost never referred to as that.
Yeah.
So tell me when to stop.
It'll tell you when to stop.
All right. So that is all your news you said, right?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So a couple things I had since we're doing the Activision Blizzard thing. Blizzard World of Warcraft's next update will be removing more developer names due to the ongoing scandal. That's all I'm going to say on that because we've beat that with like a dead horse. Anyway, Red Cross is going to be hosting a month-long streamathon event. Red Cross is hosting a charity stream event and Fall Guys tournament fundraiser for families from September 9th to October 16th. Streamers can join the fun for prizes, giveaways, blah, blah, blah. You can check that out at redcross.org after you donate to Extra Life.
Yeah.
And then in kind of sort of Fortnite news, well, it's Apple news. Apple will, it's kind of related to their lawsuit. Apple will allow developers to promote alternative payments outside of their apps. So not what Fortnite did. Like Fortnite just said, okay, pay Apple $9.99 for your V-Bucks, or you could pay us directly for $7.99 for the same amount of V-Bucks. But they can, so what they can do is say, you can buy them here on the app for $9.99, or you can go to, I'll just use like Spotify. You can buy Spotify Premium here, or you can go buy Spotify Premium on Spotify's website itself, if it's a little cheaper or whatever. But that way, Spotify is not having to pay Apple their 30% or whatever it is, which is kind of related to the Fortnite thing. And then Fortnite is having its update 17.5 tonight. And in that update, it is believed there is going to be the Shang-Chi skin from the upcoming Marvel movie.
Which releases this Friday.
Yeah, so that'll probably be coming out, if I had to venture a guess, sometime this week. This is the last update before the end of the season. Also, one thing with Fortnite is they did have, I forget the character's name, Will Smith's character from Bad Boys. I want to say it's like Mike Lowry or something.
Sounds right.
They had him as a skin in the store. Halo news.
Yes, I was right. It releases the 3rd of September.
All right. Halo Infinite writer explained why there wasn't any campaign teasers or anything at either E3 or Gamescom. And that is because he said that the team is hard at work, just sharpening everything up, making sure it's that they don't want to take away anything from that and have like a cyberpunk situation. And taking people away from that is taking away from play tests they're going through, fixing high priority bugs and other things like that. So they've only been working on only been teasing the multiplayer stuff. And then also the Halo Infinite PC specs have come out, or system requirements, I should say. So PC minimum requirements is a Windows 10, Intel i5, 4440 or an AMD FX 8370, 8 gigs RAM, and an NVIDIA 1050 Ti, or a AMD Radeon 570. But so you got it. All right. The recommended specs are Windows 10 still, Intel i7 9500K, or AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, 16 gigs RAM, NVIDIA RTX 2070, or you're above minimum.
Also, how are you going to add to the count?
Or an AMD RX 5700 XT and DirectX 12 with both of those with 50 gigs of storage.
You just hit me with you're average.
You're above average.
Yeah, never mind.
Never mind.
That's what he was told in school.
And then also one thing that was kind of talked about lately is a competitor for Halo, Splitgate. I know we kind of talked about it earlier before Zach got here. Have you heard of Splitgate?
The name is reminiscent, but I can't place any images in my head.
Okay, so I was actually playing it a little bit earlier today. So as basically what it is it's a combination of Halo and Portal. So your guy you can shoot portals on the wall, jump through, shoot through them, whatever. Takes a little. I only played like 5 games, just got my feet wet in it, but it's pretty damn fun.
Okay. I think we talked about this once a while back.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it.
That's possible. It's by 1047 Studios. It is free to play, and the people that are saying that it is going to be a competitor is because it's not going to be exclusive to Xbox. It's going to be on all consoles, Xbox, PC, and PlayStation with crossplay. And then also Halo news. Halo Esports, the HCS, the Halo Championship Series, has official partnered teams that include Cloud9, Envy, and FaZe Clan, to name a few. There are a total of 9 teams at launch, and there are going to be more to come. Looked like most of the teams are North America teams, with Eurasia and Pacific to come down the line.
It's so weird because I think I remember asking everybody if you guys were more excited about mainstream games coming and being announced or indie games. See if you guys were more interested in seeing indie games come out, or if you're more interested in the next new game. And I think everybody was kind of like wondering what the next big indie game coming out was going to be.
Honestly, I don't pay attention to games.
Fair enough.
I get all my gaming news from you guys, pretty much.
I've been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. Haven't really been keeping up with that. Although I do have a little bit in my news section.
Go for it.
So there's an indie developer who, by the name of Emika Games, and they released a game called Summer of 58. It's a little horror game. So the big deal about this, it had over 200 and I think over 250 reviews and came highly good or highly positive on Steam. But they've made so little money off the game that they can't make a new game. Their game that they had currently in development, they had to step away from because they just weren't making money. And the reason for this is Steam's refund policy, which is if you haven't played the game for more than 2 hours, you can return it. But this game, you beatable in roughly 90 minutes. It's only about, so it's about $7 USD. It's not like a full price game. But, a lot of people have been returning it. And so they've made so little money that they can't even, continue development on their current work. And so they said in a tweet that, thanks for all the support and love, but because of this, because everybody's returning it, we're unable to actually do this. So it's going to be indefinitely put on hold unless something changes, basically. Yeah. So a highly liked and highly rated game, but almost all of their purchases have been returned because you could beat it in 90 minutes. And the refund policy says 120. Yeah.
Well, I guess they just need to make longer games.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, because you would think that you would want to make sure that you have a game whose content runs maybe an Assassin's Creed, maybe.
Well, this is an indie developer, and I mean it's not like they're charging Assassin's Creed pricing or even half that or half of half that. It was only about $7 USD.
Okay, I'll do you one better. Do you remember the game Limbo?
I do.
Okay, that was a game that took longer than 2 hours to beat, and that's if you were flawless in it. I just think that we have allowed video game developers to get lazy with their content.
Well, yeah, but Limbo was also about $20 when it came out new.
Limbo's free. All you got to do is go under the stick.
So we're going.
And you
back
guys
to
wanted
the
to kick
trifle.
me out.
Whoa.
Or mute me. Mute me. I'm
Kicking
sorry.
you out.
I said mute me.
Not on camera, at least.
Maybe put you behind
So
the screen.
let me rephrase that. You guys all hate my jokes.
Yeah, you got a face for radio, and your jokes match.
That was my joke 2 weeks ago.
How's it feel?
Same as normal.
Still a good joke. No, but yeah, Limbo at its fresh price, if you will, was $20.
So how much would you charge for an indie game?
Well, again, indie games, some of them do have a lot of content.
Yeah.
They can. That one, I think I beat it all within. Actually, it didn't take me too long to beat Limbo. It was difficult to get all the achievements, but it wasn't really that difficult to beat the game, in my opinion. I don't know exactly how long I went through it, but I'd say it couldn't have been too much longer than 2-3 hours. But a game that's less than half the price being beatable in half the time, roughly, that doesn't really sound that unreasonable, especially because of all the positive reviews. 90 minutes of sitting down playing through a game without stopping doesn't sound that bad for a game that you spent less than you'd spend on a foot long at Subway.
Well, you got to remember, because you have a lot of games that don't have the development power behind it, like Among Us that made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And then you have indie games that Splitgate.
What are you talking about development power? There's only 2 guys doing Among Us.
That's what I'm saying.
They're
though.
now at 5,
That-
I think.
that-
Yeah, I think that's what we
You also
discussed
got to
last
think
week.
Among
But they
Us
were.
came out years
Yeah.
ago.
So hang on.
And it's continuously.
Hang on.
available.
So
Yeah.
Among Us at the time only had 2 guys working on it, and then they didn't have a whole lot of stuff behind it. Look how it blew up and how much money it made. Then you got games like Splitgate, also from an independent developer who may have more development power, but their game may not be doing as hot as you would want it to. You still have people that you got to pay for it, so you got to make sure that you're pricing yourself fairly, but at the same time you're also not you're paying your guys, because it still takes people developing that game, unless it was a game that everybody loves, working on it, or let's just see where this takes us.
Yeah, that's the problem with starting. I actually almost got into the gaming industry from high school. That would have been a interesting thing.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
But I kind of didn't, because I knew how cutthroat the industry was with all this stuff that's going on. And it's still, not to this day, it's still, especially with all the return policies. I understand some games, but from my point of view, it's like when I go see a movie. I'm going to go see the movie to see the movie. Even though I've read a lot of reviews on it and stuff, if I really wanted to see the movie, I'm going to go spend the money to see it. Now, some movies, yes, most definitely I regretted spending that money, but I saw it because I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's a movie I'm like, I'll just wait for it to come to DVD, because it's I'm not really, enthused about it, so I'll just wait. That's kind of how I was with Black Widow.
Right.
I've still yet to see it. I'm going to wait for it to be free on Disney Plus, and then I'll watch it, because
Yeah.
I just think it was a movie that didn't really need to be done because of how they ended off with everything.
More specifically with how long they waited to release it. It's missed its prime time.
And this is, I understand now why they didn't release it straight to streaming, because of, look at everything that we're going through with her suit with him. Because I was like, well, you have the streaming service, just release it. But now I see why, because it was supposed to go to theaters. And yeah, it's I just some indie games, they're good. It's really a hit and miss with some indie games. I mean, right now I'm playing I mentioned this before, Dyson Sphere, where pretty much your whole objective is to build a Dyson Sphere around the sun. You know, so you got to go to different galaxies and stuff, different star systems to gather resources, making a big network to form this one thing around one sun. So it's, you know, it's another like Factorial and what's that other game? There's so many of those games now where they're just, you know, managing time.
Yeah.
But a lot of those all started off as indie games, you know, and it's like either one streamer finds it and they pick it up. That's how Among Us really hit big, you know, and that's like right now, the Valkyrie, who really kind of blew up because of Among Us. They're currently playing Mage Quit, which I just saw. It's a pretty fun game. But I've seen them play a bunch of different games that, you know, they look like indie games. You know, and they just had Ludwig just had a tournament with what is it? Tower Terror.
I haven't been watching him lately.
It's one of the games on the Switch. They played it a few years ago, but he just had a big tournament. I mean, and Tower, the game's been out for 2 years now. And Ludwig's just now had all these big name streamers, you know, and within his group playing this game. And so, you know, it really just, what really pushes these games are streamers nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's not these little ones. It's a big streamer.
It's the big streamers, and then the little streamers get on it.
Yeah.
To try to get some of those viewers. Since we're talking kind of that, I did see it was like a suggested thing on YouTube for, I think it was Saikuno. It said they were playing, I forget what game, but then it said that and Among Us, and this game feels new again. I don't know what updates Among Us has had since. I know they've done the new map.
I thought unless it's a mod, there is another map.
They released a 5th map?
I think so. It might be it might be a player-made map though, which but even then, like a lot of the Among Us stuff, a lot of people, or the craze kind of came back a little bit, but like for us, I've only seen all those people that do play it. It's only fun when you have a group of friends.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You know, but when you try to get like all these other people in, it's just not the same, because you can't, like, you don't know when David's lying, or you know,
Or you do, and he doesn't appreciate it.
and flips out about, David, we know you're in the podcast. No, I'm not.
I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, never.
Never.
No, there was a time where on that's a little, yeah.
But yeah, that kind of sucks for that particular indie developer who got messed up. It'd be one thing if the game was bad. Nobody would feel bad for him. But for a price that's almost half of what movie tickets cost nowadays, a regular time, not like early bird matinee. But yeah.
Sorry, I just remembered something. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, that was basically it. Yeah. I just thought that was pretty messed up.
It sounds better than Avatar: The Last Airbender game, where you're paying $14 to rent it and you beat it within.
You literally got all the achievements in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 minutes
I
at the
bought that
most.
because it was on sale. I don't remember how much it was, but it was on sale, and I was like, oh, I like this show. I'll buy it. Yeah.
So the thing I just remembered is with Fortnite right now, they are doing it's kind of a collaboration with Time Magazine. It's called A Look Through Time, I believe, where it is, because it is the just past the anniversary of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. So they built like I don't know what it's called, but the DC Plaza, where you got like the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, the big reflecting pond and everything. And it does have like the speech playing in the background, and then there's mini games you can do in that that I thought was really cool, and because it was 1963, I think the 28th of this month that he gave the speech. So it was math years ago. But yeah, I thought that was something that was really cool that they did.
That is pretty cool.
Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and call this an episode. Thank you for everybody who joined us for this episode of Gaming News. If you haven't already, please make sure you check out our link tree below, and make sure you pay extra close attention to that Extra Life campaign that's down below there as well. Also, thank you for everyone who supports us, all of our supporters on Anchor, and as well as our Anchor advertiser as well. Thank you for listening to us. We don't know what service you're listening to us on, but we greatly appreciate any review that you give us. We've never asked for 5-star, but this guy would.
Yes, we do.
So thank you again for joining us. If you're watching the stream, still hang out with us. We're going to continue on. If this is you listening on Spotify, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back with more pre-scheduled episodes, as well as more potentially gaming news coming in the future. Check out the Linktree, find ways to communicate with us, send us emails, the whole shebang, and communicate and see us on all our socials. I've been here with
Irishguy, aka Mike.
This is Doc.
In Zmainia.
Thanks everybody for joining the show. I've been Game Boy. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you sometime later. Thank you everybody for joining us. Hang out real quick.
All right.
'Cause that's what gaming means.
You can switch back over.
Whoops.
That's fine. All right, we're back. We're going to be starting the recorded podcast here shortly. Do we still need sound here?
Don't ask me, ask him.
What?
Do we need to?
No.
No? Okay. Just want to make sure I have all the settings. All right.
Are we broadcasting right now?
Yeah, we're still broadcasting.
Okay.
We're
right.
we're still live. It's just we're not recording
Okay.
actual podcast yet.
All right. Recording. Recording. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody to Shrek Team Gaming presents Level 4 XP, and welcome to your pre-scheduled episode brought to you by Anchor and Shrek Team Gaming. Today, we are going to be talking about the greatest and most notable gaming peripherals that have ever graced the video game market. What are they? What do they do? And why were they a part of the game? Well, Zach's going to tell you all about it today. Without further ado, let me introduce who I'm here with.
Irishguy, aka Mike.
This is Ronnie.
And Zmainia, a.k.a. Zach.
Welcome everybody, I'm Game Boy. As previously mentioned, Zach's going to take us on a field trip of the greatest peripherals ever to grace video game consoles. When you think of peripherals, we want you to think of stuff like the guitars or drums from the Rock Band series, or maybe even the gun for the Duck Hunt game. There have been many more than just those two that have been so notable, so we're going to go ahead and let Zach talk about what others there are and why we should remember them.
Thank you, David. So,
I'm sorry, do you want the big screen for your feature, or do you want to just be regular screen?
it's just the image. They're not going to need to read anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when you say greatest, I was going to go over a lot of them. So, maybe not the greatest, but this is definitely the progression. What you currently see on the screen, in case you can't read it. What? Oh, why, thank you, my good sir. What you currently see on the screen is the Magnavox Odyssey 100, circa 1972. The first commercial digital video game console for home. This one was shipped with an analog controller that you could see there on the left with the big old thick boy cord. It was not so complex. It had one dial to control horizontal movement and one for vertical. Players could navigate Pong paddles for endless hours of joy. So if you've ever seen, what was it, That 70s Show, I believe this is the gaming console. If not, it was like the next gen or something like that. But it was basically, this is the one that Kelso ruined, that Mr. Red Foreman bought. Oh, I'm on the wrong window. Actually, we can full screen this.
Okay. Yeah, you know how to do it.
Yeah, I just gotta find.
Oh, do you want me to hit F11?
That would be preferable. Yes.
There you go.
All right. And then, as some would consider the grandfather of Mario's Duck Hunt, aka Nintendo, this would be the Shooting Gallery of 1972. Oh, I gotta scroll on this one too. My bad. So this remarkable rifle was actually the first light gun controller available for home consoles. The game had 4 compatible titles on the
Magnavox.
Magnavox Odyssey. Wildly inaccurate. The gun would score a hit even if the player shot at pretty much any light source, meaning you can point it at a light bulb to record a hit. But, I mean, there was no scoring, so you were only cheating yourself. Yeah. The technology definitely came a long way by NES days. Actually, it might have been this Atari, which I should probably scroll for. The Atari Home Pong console. Yeah, that actually looks more like it from the TV show. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I want to say they had the Atari. if I remember correctly, because of the coloring.
Yeah, I remember it was more of a black and white consistency, and it was a single device that he had both his hands on like this. Yeah, that sounds more appropriate. But this one was the take-home version of the game that started it all. The Atari Home Pong console contained the most powerful computer chips in a consumer product at the time, when it was launched by Sears in 1975. The controllers were built into the console itself, as you can see, allowing players to slide their Pong paddle up and down by rotating a single dial. So this was pretty revolutionary for its time. You having two dials for two players instead of, as previously it was a single controller. Also, not much development otherwise in terms of the controller itself. Really just largely started off as either point and click interface like a mouse. Yes.
I was just gonna say, because like occasionally I do want to like make comments on.
I was gonna say that after I finish this one. Feel free to chime in whenever. Just
two things that come to mind. So when you think of like Pong and stuff, right? You look at the date that these three items were released. The 70s. What was going on in the 70s? Vietnam War was coming to an end, and then a lot of the stuff that was being portrayed. The 70s was not exactly a technological revolutionary age. So for this stuff to come out seems to be this. I think this is revolutionary for the time.
Quite so. In fact, let me just pull it up on my device right here. But if I remember correctly, this was also about the time, the 1970s, when virtual reality technology, just in general, really started to actually exist. Outside of just being theoretical or work in progress. The 1970s is really when it started, though it was more specifically for medical, flight simulations, automotive industry design, and military training purposes. I was going to bring up VR a little later because it's not until the 90s, really, that it's more applicable for gaming. But so 1970s was definitely a boom in technology for video games and otherwise.
The other thing I was going to mention is can you scroll down?
Of course.
The shooting gallery one. How not usable that would be in today's environment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the technology back then for screens, which actually continued up until really flat screens with the LED or LCD technology.
Oh, no. I mean like
The
2A nuts and stuff.
Oh, yeah. That
Whether you're for or against it. Just you could not bring this. Think of how many homes you could not bring this into without enticing some kind of argument.
Yeah, definitely today.
So for those of you listening and not actually watching, this gun, looks nothing like the Nintendo gun.
It's colored accurately.
It looks like a regular old shotgun with a cord at the end of kind of at the butt, but not quite
at the grip part.
When was the Oklahoma University shooting? Was it in the 70s?
The sniper?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just thinking to myself how
honestly, you know how many shootings there's been to remember.
True.
Quite a few. But if you ever had a old BB gun from
Daisy.
Daisy, yeah. Yeah, if you ever had one of those, that's pretty much exactly what it looks like. I have one from my childhood. It even has the sights on it, like the iron sights. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is kind of what I've mentioned before, where a lot of this stuff that we see nowadays, where it's like, oh man, this new technology that's been out for a while, it's actually has it. Mm. It's been out for longer than that. I was one of the articles I was thinking about was honestly, this is the stuff when it was able to become commercialized. Mm-hmm. That a company can commercialize it and make an industry like that, because fiber optics, wire was created in 1970, but there's a timeline of just the whole thought process of it going back to 1854, versus Bluetooth, which was oh gosh, where was it? That technology's been around for even longer than that.
I think it's roughly 40 years now.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the number that I most recently saw.
Sounds about right.
it was initiated in 1989, but just in the late 1990, early 2000s, it really became, the name Bluetooth was proposed in 1997, so the technology was before, but in 1997 was when the initial name came about. And as of 2009, Bluetooth finally got integrated into circuits. So it's kind of like where this stuff is like, for that time, it seemed like it was
Revolutionary.
Yeah, revolutionary for that time. But this technology has been around for at least 10 years.
Yeah, like with VR. VR was first brought about conceptually, I believe, in or outside of science fiction. Brought up in 1950s, but it never even really saw any real work on it until maybe 1960s, late 1960s, and really wasn't a thing until effectively the 1970s.
Yeah. So it's just interesting, like going back and looking at all this stuff, and we're like, oh man, that's really bulky and everything, and it's just because we were able to actually get our stuff, the circuit down to where it is versus like what we have now.
Yeah. Everything consumers receive, even when it's new, is always going to be kind of out of date.
Yeah.
That just tends to be the case.
Yeah.
So you're both 80s babies, right? Born in the 80s?
Yeah.
Yep. 85.
So do you guys remember, not trying to be funny, but like to illustrate your point you just made, but do you guys remember these kinds of consoles? Do you ever play on them or anything? Or was your first iteration the Nintendo?
Mine was, so far, none of them. The one I remember was the first, like, the one I remember the most is NES, but I have played like Atari.
Okay.
Atari would be the first initial system. Not this one.
Not the Pong Atari. I'll point it out when we get to it.
The old, the one with the first one to have, I believe, 8 directional.
Omnidirectional movement.
Yeah, omnidirectional movement.
Yeah. I think the concept of having this one?
You're giving away your content.
All right.
Not to them, though. Yeah. I think the first, the D-pad was invented, I think, by, or the concept that we know it today, was for the Game & Watch by Nintendo. The watch gaming. That's not going to be on this episode. So it's not a spoiler. But yeah, so they made the Game & Watch, the watch that you can play games on, around the time that they were coming out with calculator watches. So they used that general technology and made the Game & Watch, which if you play Super Smash Bros. Or any of those variants, Game & Watch, that's where that character's from. In case you were like me, that was like, what is this Game & Watch? And he's just like, he's powerful, but I just don't understand where he comes from. Yeah. So anywho, the Fairchild Channel F 1976, kind of considered to be the second generation of consoles. They actually had, the built-in knobs and dials, actually having multiple controllers that are not connected by a really thick boy cord. It was better, but it had the 8-directional joystick, which is pretty cool. It was progress, but ultimately, it fell out pretty quickly compared to some other ones. Like this one looks pretty cool. The Coleco Telstar Arcade. Coleco. Yeah, that sounds a lot more.
Why does that look like
Revolver?
not the Revolver, but I was just gonna say the Back to the Future. Is that it?
Yeah, like that symbol on top alone looks like it kind of reminds me of some of the warning stickers inside the DeLorean. I almost said Deluxo. I've been playing too much Grand Theft Auto online. This is the most extravagant example of a controller contained in the casing as compared to earlier with the Atari. The arcade version of the Telstar console offered 3 different functions: a steering wheel for driving simulators, 2 dials for the standard Pong Tetris variations, and a quick draw light gun. Unfortunately, there were no games that incorporated all 3 sets of controls.
You'd
That
be
would
doing.
I mean, you'd be doing what
What
Doc
I
just
just
did.
did.
You'd have to have it on like a Lazy Susan and be like drawn, and then either turn it and pull out the gun to shoot somebody.
So we'll have this. We'll have to get the link so we can put it in the description for those people who would like to kind of know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
it's kind of in a pyramid if you cut it in half. So you have the base of the pyramid. You have a steering wheel on one side, a gun on the other side that's like an old-fashioned, old-timey revolver.
It's a 6-shooter.
Yeah, 6-shooter. And then you've got the 2 knobs on the third and what looks to be the main side.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. And then later on in the 1977s, because there was multiple, they came out with the RCA Studio 2.
Now, when I think of RCA, I think of the TV.
RCA actually, when in their prime, actually had a lot of stuff, unknown to the younger generation nowadays. Where you look at TVs, VCRs, Google it.
Yeah.
That's gonna be our thing. Anytime we mention like VCR or VHS, it's just gonna be Google it.
Oh man, I haven't even busted out the 8-track yet.
Sir,
Google
does
it.
this come on vinyl?
All right.
Vinyl's made a comeback though.
I know, but it's still old.
Vinyl's actually, if you actually want to hear the best quality of a soundtrack, you want to get it on vinyl.
Yeah, look up the difference between analog versus digital signaling and sample rates, and it'll make more sense.
Yeah,
from a logistics side.
Even like I know with nowadays hipsters and stuff like that, hey, I said it. It has made a comeback just because if you do have that good sound, if you do want to hear almost everything in that music, they're like the best to have.
Yeah. But yeah, this thing that looks like it belongs in your grandparents' house. So this one kind of took a step backwards in terms of futuristic design for the age. I mean, look, these 2 came out in the same year, the Telstar by Coleco and the RCA Studio 2. But for those of you that are watching, they look drastically different style-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like they went into your grandparents' station wagon, pulled out some of the upholstery or the dash, and like used that to make this.
And then they took the number pad off of your home phone.
Exactly.
Honestly,
off their home phone.
Honestly, all they did was take, because the old RCA remotes, that's what these used to be.
Yeah.
They just put 2 together.
I mean, it does say home TV programmer.
Yeah, that was going to be my next.
That's honestly, because I think that was also during the times when the first introduction of having like multiple TVs at once together.
Yeah.
Of where, you needed a multiple thing to control different things at once.
Yeah, this one, the controller has 2 number pads, left and right, that gain different control functions for each of the 5 inbuilt games, some of which use the number layouts as directional pads. So this was kind of like an early stage directional pad, but not in the way that we use it nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it looks like it looks definitely like it's like you said, it just a really big phone.
Two remotes put together.
Yeah.
That's honestly what it looks like.
But yeah, then came out the Atari the same year, that the 2600 with the joystick, really mixing things up there.
History lesson for anybody who's been paying attention to the podcast. This is what the logo was inspired after.
I don't know what you're talking about.
My first attempt. So this is what I imagine what
This is pretty much where we get joysticks.
Yeah.
Not joysticks, but like I was just trying to name a few games that came out on the Atari, and I immediately drew a blank.
Well,
Yeah.
there was the what was it? Halo 4600,
Oh yeah, it came out on the Atari.
which we did an episode on Halo. Check it out. Shameless plug.
Actually, that was
That was just recently.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just with the old joystick, because that was actually also, I'm wondering if they actually, because I'm trying to remember when the joystick actually came out for the computer, or if they merged this over with the computer, because I remember you could actually do.
You mean for flight simulators? I think that was later.
For some of the other, because I remember having a joystick for one of the computers I used to have when I could play like Quake and that type of stuff. Some of those games on there.
Yeah, I think that was this. It most likely drew inspiration from this one, but I think that was definitely later.
But I also remember those being a lot bigger than this one was. So.
Yeah.
Hey man, size isn't everything.
Well, this is the thing. Having computers throughout the ages, because I used to have an old computer that you actually had to run the DOS prompt first before you can do anything on.
Yeah.
Which meant that you actually had to put 3.5 or no, not the 3.5, the 5 floppy disk inside, run a program, which nowadays you don't even do. You just hit the power button and it just starts up. No, not in the old days. You actually had to run a boot command to do it.
That's when floppy disks were actually floppy.
Floppy, not these hard 3.5, which you can
Google it.
Google.
Look at the save icon on your computer. That's
where
that was
icon
what you
comes
used to
from,
save stuff on.
But even then, that was a 3.5 floppy.
Yeah.
The old,
It's the good floppy.
the old floppy, where the term floppy disk came from, was an actual. It pretty much looked like 3 pieces of paper put together to run something.
Yeah.
And that, because the only reason why I remember that was because we actually used one of my schools actually had one of those, and that's how we played Oregon Trails.
Yep.
was because of that.
You don't have to worry about dying of dysentery when you're waiting for that to load up. You'll
Right?
die of boredom first.
Yep. but
yeah, this was
continue.
the first real.
I don't know why, but
implementation of the joystick.
Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna. I was thinking of something else, but never mind.
We'll skip through this in a second. Yeah, it just came with a pair of dial controllers for paddles or driving games, but it took an interesting turn in '82. Went a bit more nubby with it.
So I remember this one. I think this one was one of the ones that was in, or in a version like this was in Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, because I remember the kid holding it and moving a dial. It might have not been this big, but I want to swear that at the end of it he had a Atari 52 instead of the 26.
It sounds right.
I look at this and I'm just like, this is where all the training for cell phones originated.
Yeah. Some of you younger viewers might be seeing the hashtag. We called it £, for the longest time. Yeah, so it had the full gambit, 1 through 9 plus 0 star pound. Let's see what the description says.
Like basic. I'm just basically looking at it, and it's just like you would hold it like this. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, you hold it with one hand in your hand, and then you would turn the dial like this.
Yeah.
It looks like it's also a joystick.
Yeah.
A joystick and possibly a dial.
Yeah, I believe it was a joystick, right?
It looks like it because the way it has the rings around it, like it has movement.
Yeah, I guess it is a joystick. It just doesn't move in the traditional sense that you would think nowadays when they say joystick. It's just mainly for the rotation. Yeah. That's
360-degree non-centering. I can't read the rest because non-centering joystick gave players control. 8-way to
So that instead of just like up,
down, left, right, it's
and then the directions, you can actually rotate like an actual thumbstick on a 360 controller or PlayStation.
Yeah. Or an Xbox Elite if you choose that particular thumb pad hookup.
Thumbstick.
I said thumb pad, but it's not a stick. It's
Okay,
probably-
anyway.
Anywho, let's skip. That's just another. It's not really innovative.
Casio PV. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. We'll screw past
Yeah.
it.
To
So now we're
the
na-
good money shot.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
Now we're into what everyone should be familiar with.
What a lot of people's, including my own, first gaming system, the Nintendo Entertainment System, 1983, the NES, very good game console. This is probably one of the ones that came out with the most individual games for it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the ones that you've seen so far, they've either had pre-built into the hardware of the games, or they had a couple titles available, basically. But this one, I mean, almost goes without saying, but we're a podcast, so I'll say it. Had quite a selection. Things really started getting hot for gaming in the 1980s. While the USA underwent the video game crash in 1983, Japan saw the launch of one of the most iconic consoles of all time, as you see here, or at least the controller. The design for the controller was borrowed largely from their handheld Game & Watch, as I mentioned previously with the D-pad. 4 directions, 2 buttons, and a slice of brilliance.
Does everybody here refer to it as D-pad or cross?
D-pad.
I've always been a D-pad kind of guy.
D-pad.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely one of the most iconic controllers of all time. I mean, there's still love for the Atari, but there's a few Ataris, and I don't know. I haven't seen too many dangle, or I can't remember what the knickknacks hanging from people's backpacks, but I've seen a lot of these.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say how like impressed I was what they were able to do with only B and A, as far as games were concerned.
Right.
So, quick discussion. So, for people to kind of visualize what the Atari 56 was, or 5600 was, in Ready Player One, at the end, spoilers, at the end, when you're in the attic with them, the little boy is actually playing the Atari 5600. So, him holding that and moving the dial, that was actually that controller. So it was kind of a mixture of both. So
Yeah.
but this system, yeah, it is really amazing. Only
Yeah.
2 keys.
Yeah, they don't have it here, but there was also the orange gun that everybody loves that came with the original Nintendo or Super Mario Bros. Game. It was also Duck Hunt. And with Duck Hunt, for those of you that somehow made it to this far without playing it or seeing it, it used a light gun like previously. I forgot what it was called. The
Shooter gallery.
The Shooter Gallery, yeah, by
Magnavox.
Magnavox. Thank you. So they had a similar one, except it was significantly less realistic looking, and it actually worked, which was pretty nice. And
Most of the time.
yeah, most of the time, unless you have a pet rabbit that chews through the cords. No, just me. No,
I was gonna say there sounds like
a
there's some
personal story.
Yeah.
deep-seated trauma.
Yeah, that it always bit too. We caught it wild. It was probably not a good idea.
That explains a
It
lot.
might explain a lot.
Yeah. Somebody told my dad that he couldn't catch a rabbit with his bare hands, and he decided to prove them wrong. But that's
Zach's
that's,
having some Vietnam flashbacks.
that's another story. But yeah, so there was also that controller for this system. Pretty nifty. It was pretty accurate, if I do say so myself, from personal usage. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great way to stay in shape.
And a great way to stay in shape.
So what I'm noticing here is that they didn't show the gun,
Yeah.
which I'm a little disappointed in.
Myself as well. For those of you that are only listening, there's not really a significant difference. But those of you that are watching, yeah.
It looked like a laser gun,
It did.
orange and gray.
It
And
a
it
lot of
was-
fun.
It is still one of the most iconic when it comes to video game guns.
Yeah.
The outline is used in a lot of places, so
In fact, I think they ended up remaking them in a format that works for current day televisions. Because as we were talking about before, since this is about the development of the peripheral devices of video games, the guns back then, they used the way screens did frames, which was they basically just populated I think it was right to left and then down. So they do a line of lights of pixels, and they go to the next one and do a line. And once they finished, they went back up.
You were right. They're lights. They weren't pixels. They're lights.
Yeah.
One of my old bosses used to actually put those things together. And
Wow.
legit, it's a big tube with magnets in the back that just projects lights, like a light source.
Yeah,
it's
you can think of them as pixels for conceptualization.
Yes,
sake,
nowadays.
But yeah, lights. And so when you pulled the trigger, it would sense whatever it was specifically looking at on the screen, and basically how the light was, it would tell it whether or not there was a duck there. Is the simple way to explain it. But that doesn't work with current day televisions, where all pixels that are actually pixels are lit at the same time. So there was no flash feedback to tell it yay or nay. But yeah, so they ended up fixing that, I think, a couple years ago, maybe longer. It was a while ago.
It was
COVID
probably
time
when they
really messed time up.
when they redid the retro stuff.
Yeah.
Where you can play everything on one system, and
They probably did it
updated
with like the NES Classic or something.
Yeah,
That sounds
that's
right.
Yeah, I think that's when they did it.
Yeah. Then moving on, we have...
I don't remember this.
You don't
I don't
remember the
either.
Sega Master System circa 1985?
Honestly, it looks like they saw what NES did, and they're like, we could do better.
Exactly. And but did they?
Well, I don't think so, because like first off, that like when you're holding the controller, you're holding it like so, right? And then honestly, with that thumbstick, unless you were at that time had the wherewithal to control it with your thumb tip as opposed to your hand.
That's nowadays though.
I
do
know,
like
but
the
I'm
idea.
saying-
Well, yeah, but this one, I mean,
Like-
that controller is probably the first thumbstick, if you will.
That's the predecessor
much,
to
yeah.
nowadays.
They,
Right.
they
Yeah.
said we have a D-pad and we have a joystick. Can
I think
merge them, but they
I
kept
think-
the skirt.
I think Sega wanted to one up NES with the thumbstick,
I think, it
and
would
then the
work
cord
better.
on the right, that's in the way of.
Yeah, so they weren't really escaping from their it has to be on a table approach to this largely. Like a lot of the controllers have been, where actually you're like doing it from the T-Rex position, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, with that, we our outlook on how our front rooms look versus how they were back then, because a lot of times these are kids playing it on the ground though too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not sitting in chairs. They either have a coffee table in front of them or they're playing on the ground.
Yeah, the old-fashioned.
The good old
Yeah.
days.
Yeah,
Laying on the
So-
carpet.
You got carpet?
in some of the rooms.
Yeah, in my front room I had carpet.
Yeah, so many rug burns, but those are also other stories.
Yep.
Yeah. So this one, they were trying to tackle the NES's popularity, but it sounds like they failed short. I guess copying the controller design largely, except doing it way worse with that cord coming out of the side, just wasn't good enough. No.
Too ahead of the, but this is also one of those technologies that was be a little too ahead of its time.
Yeah, yeah. But largely, I'd say it's the controller's layout that really cemented it in not beating this one. This one's they won in their simplicity, I'd say.
Yeah.
They have everything you need pretty much for games back then, and the layout is reasonable. My only thing is for adults, I guess it'd probably be nicer to have the buttons slightly higher up, not really centered, but like just a little bit higher, because there's been times my hands gotten tired playing on those old controllers.
Yeah.
All right. And then as Sega evolves, they make a comeback 3 years later, and they actually add a third button. But they,
Oh man.
And change the controller drastically.
It's
Yeah.
just
Hey, trigger warning. There's trigger underneath B. You've been warned.
it just seems like just the conversation we had about the controller layout and everything. Sega was like, you know what's missing? You know what would really one up NES right now? A third button.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing.
They
But-
will never recover from this.
But this is also the thing is that as you look at 3 years since, right? Scroll down.
Yeah, it's 3.
Yeah. So you're looking at 3 years of now that we have this stuff, we can add an additional feature. And that's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have another option to add to it instead of just like with Mario, you either jumped or you ran.
Yeah.
Whatever A and B was. And then now this one, you're giving your characters an additional option, which
Select.
yeah, you have more. It from
More
a marketing,
customization
You
from
could
what you
jump,
can do.
run, and crouch.
yeah, from a marketing point of view, this is actually brilliant.
Yeah. The ergonomics, however, from today's standards, not really. Though I will give them props.
You got to remember, they're coming from basically the NES controller.
Exactly.
to
This
that.
is
It's
basically
huge.
if you don't count controllers that simulate real life items, like joysticks can be thought of as like the control sticks for flying planes and stuff like that. This is the first implementation of any recognizable ergonomics in any controller so far.
Yeah, I remember playing with this controller, and I actually preferred this controller over the original Nintendo controller.
Yeah, you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have sharp corners that are digging into your hands as you're holding it. You actually can like grip it with your fingers. Much nicer. Yeah.
It was
Oh,
just
yeah,
it was just bigger with kids' hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I did notice
Yeah.
that the article hints at Street Fighter, which, I mean, when you think of that game, 3 buttons make sense.
Yeah.
and that's what I mean is as the games evolve to add those newer features, what happens? You need.
More buttons.
I mean, look at what we have now. We have six
16.
Well, no, I'm just saying 6 buttons on top of, not including the directional pads.
No, you got,
No, if you have
you got the 4 on top, depending on what console you're playing with.
let's use Xbox as the standard for
ABXY.
this.
Yeah,
ABXY, bumpers, triggers, so that's 8. Then you have right stick and left stick click, so 10.
Start.
Start and pause, or I guess
start
it's,
and stop
and
don't really
select.
do stuff though. That's,
Yeah, they
I'm
do.
talking about features for
Okay,
in the
well,
game.
Well, yeah,
Pause.
I mean, pause. So, like, take Assassin's
pretty
Creed, for example,
standardized for
because,
that.
like, if you press start, you access the menu. You press back, you access the game's, like, map and other stuff like that.
Yeah, oftentimes with start, just because it's so universally used for menu or pause,
Yeah.
I could give that to you just because of how again universal it is. But select, I would have to argue against because that is a lot of utility. Usually, that's like the in-game or in-game inventory. Hey, I'm playing an RPG and I want to customize my character, and I'm not playing Skyrim or Fallout, so I'm not pressing B.
I don't play a lot of console anymore, so
That's fair. But yeah, like so that definitely.
I'll give that to you now because
so 11.
off of going off of Nintendo,
Yeah.
as we see right here, there's no select button on that.
Yeah, only the start button.
There was only the start button, and that's pretty much what the select button was. It was just okay, now we're gonna do this.
A more in-game, actually applicable to the game menu button.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, you're ready to quit, or oh, you're switching to 2 players, hit select.
Yeah.
So
Player
Yeah.
2, press select to join.
yeah,
So this
that
was
type of
pretty
thing. Yeah.
revolutionary for its additional button and ergonomic construction. I'd definitely say it's like the next gen of controllers. But of course, can't forget the Commodore 64. Circa 1990.
So I actually remember the controller. I don't remember the system.
Yeah,
So-
I think this more represents the first logo.
Yeah. I actually had one of these when I was a kid, but I had absolutely no idea what it was for. Because it was just it was just in my room one day. No explanation. It was just like, all right, I own this. And I don't even know how it got there to this day. Like somebody could have like broken into my house and I dropped my Commodore 64 that I travel with for some reason. Like, I have no clue.
Right.
I wish I got to actually play it. I never knew what it was until after I lost it.
I thought it was something for the computer,
Me too, but I couldn't get it to
but
work.
it never worked.
I had the computer in my room, but I still couldn't get it to work.
Because
No internet.
I had the bigger version of this that was actually for a computer. Because the base, see, that's what I was saying. I think they came out with the ones for the computer first, because the base of them, I remember the base was a lot bigger than what you get for the Atari and then what you get for this. So,
Yeah, this one didn't. It was not as successful as the PC version of it. Yeah, but it did come with a significantly brilliant controller, with rubberized suction cups to make sure that you don't like accidentally like go off with it, and to make sure that your control is useful without having to hold it.
someone gets angry and just like goes right, gets mad at the game and
Why the fuck did you look at me when you said that?
Because you're the one that gets angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everything. You know what? I'm not gonna dignify that.
Hey,
I rest my case. Just that right
turn around.
Yeah.
Feel attacked.
It's a shame that it wasn't really well received, but it was. I believe this was a first for a full-on joystick.
I don't.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I don't know if I agree with that, because like, if you think about Thrustmasters,
What masters?
you can Google it. But they're the ones that make all of the
We
the
don't
ones
wanna
that
tell.
make all of the air flight peripherals that professional gamers use for flight simulator and everything.
Nowadays,
Yes. You guys are gonna make me look it up.
I just want to know where they're mastering the art of the thrust.
I just don't want someone to Google something and something else pops up on the
Yeah,
browser.
so don't Google that until we verify that it's
Even
the result will
then-
be safe for work.
I would just say, even then, just don't Google that.
Yeah.
We don't want to control, because I know that just saying Thrustmasters into a Google search, you'll get pinged
Yeah.
for most.
A lot of adult content.
So you guys remember earlier when Sega when Sega told Nintendo,
Did
suck
that
it, we
hurt?
got a third
A
button?
little.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
they responded in kind by not only adding an extra button, but they actually brought in the select button. Okay, it is real.
Oh no, they already had the select button.
Or like no, the start and the select. Did they?
Then they
Yeah,
were
they did.
told-
Oh, yeah,
NES,
NES
yeah.
had it.
We
They
were
added
just-
two
We were
additional
talking about
buttons.
it on Sega, and I just wasn't thinking.
So this
I sit corrected.
so this is definitely one of the control. So does anybody remember the phrase 4-button reset?
I do recall that.
No.
It's when you this is
I'm not that
actually
old.
when select actually took off as a use. But start select RNL and you reset your game.
Yeah, I think at one point Xbox had a similar setup. Don't quote me on when, but it was on the I think it was the 360 to reset the home page. You had to do I think a 4-button hold for like a few seconds, maybe
Yeah.
10, and that was in case it froze or whatever.
I will point out that this controller was for the rich kids, because the original SNES controller, Y and X were this purple shade, and B and A were gray.
Yeah. This is definitely the fancier, more palated version of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one.
I had both.
Ooh, fancy you.
Depending on the edition that you got, was depending on which controller.
I'm not familiar with Famicom. Is that like for example, Turtle Beach would be a creator of controllers? Would that
Razer.
Razor?
Yeah.
Is Famicom just a brand?
I believe so.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
They even have their own brand logo next
Yeah.
to it.
I think it was a third party that was authorized to sell their.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So for those listening, the controller we have on screen says Nintendo Super Famicom with logo on there.
Yeah, and the button colors are equivalent to that what you'd see on a Xbox controller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even the
pretty nice.
Switch controllers nowadays have the purple and gray buttons, or the two offset.
Yeah.
I haven't.
So even the
played
Xbox,
Switch in a
the
while.
Switch controllers have the.
What are you talking about, David?
Jesus Christ.
I have a Switch. I just haven't played it in a while.
Yeah, I leave mine at my girlfriend's house. She plays it.
It's an excuse to go over there.
All right.
The only excuse?
I refuse to comment on that
What
comment.
is this?
The Sega
You don't know what this is? Oh my gosh.
I couldn't skip this one.
Oh my god. Okay, go continue.
Oh, no.
No, go.
So, long before the interactive days of the Wii or the Kinect, the Sega, they launched their own get-off-the-couch controller. The vastly unsuccessful Activator, as seen here, if you're watching, was designed for use while playing fighting games. So you place it on the floor in front of, and a safe distance from your TV, and you control your character by punching and kicking the infrared beams. So it was pretty expensive, and probably a large reason why it flopped.
Yeah, it. So I remember seeing the commercial on this because this was, which one I don't know if it's going to mention, is the Power Gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
So this and that were kind of like very, very revolutionary.
Yes.
Like, so in the beginning of the somewhere in 1990s is when VR technology first, like, really started becoming a thing for video games. And so, like, the interactivity with your video games outside of merely using a controller, this is when it really became a thing. Like, I mean, technically with the guns, like, it used a sensor, but I would argue that it's not quite on this level.
Yeah. I do remember the commercial being young and them having this, and this was one of the things that I thought was like awesome.
Yeah, like, the concept alone is amazing, but, like, the price, which I don't have in front of me, unfortunately, prohibitively expensive, because I think people sometimes forget how expensive the video games were back then, because they'll think, oh, $150 for this gaming console, that's not that bad, but in today's dollars, that's pretty much a brand new Xbox.
Yeah.
And that was just for, like, less than what we get now sometimes.
Yeah.
I take it people who were born in the 80s, when they hear let's step into the octagon, this is what you thought of?
No, the octagon was an actual octagon.
No, I'm aware.
No,
That
that's
was
definitely an
MMA fighting.
No.
This is where do you think they got this from?
He said your joke falls flat, young
Yeah,
man.
I got it.
I know.
So we're going to go ahead and take, for those of you who are listening on Spotify, we're going to go ahead and take our first anchor break. The service that we currently use to distribute the podcast to you. For those of you watching on YouTube, you're just going to be graced with music for the time being. We'll be right back after this brief message and after we have a chance to stretch our legs.
call you Lick.
All right, everybody, welcome back to this pre-scheduled episode, and thank you, Anchor, for that ad. Go ahead and continue on with our conversation about the greatest or most notable gaming peripherals that have ever graced gaming. I'm gonna let Zach continue where he left off and continue talking about this.
Sorry, I get caught up in that theme, that music, man, and it's just jamming. Sorry.
I say we made a good choice.
Yeah.
I love that the instrumentals on that, man. It's just
The whole thing's an instrumental.
I
Thank you, Harris Heller, for the music.
I'm just saying though, I just love that one. It I can just listen to it for hours. Oh my gosh.
Maybe we'll do a podcast where we just sit here and listen to it.
Right? It's just
This is our
starting from the
chillest
beginning where, you
section.
know, like our opening of it, you know, the first 30 seconds, you just the range you have between there. You know, you start off low and then he just picks it up and then it just drops. And then you're just like, dun-dun-dun, and then you go. And that's just the first 30 seconds of it. And then just the rest of it's just him and Senpai Records is I love their music.
He would like you to notice him, Senpai.
Yes.
Sounds and soundtracks, part 2.
Yeah.
Podcast edition.
Music of our era.
So,
Anywho.
going back to the podcast that we're actually doing, the Sony PlayStation, circa 1994, came out with arguably the best controller yet. I would say most certainly. They not only added the 4 bumpers, if you will, R1-2, L1-2, and personally, I like, out of all the controllers so far that I've actually held in my hands and used, the D-pad in this one's definitely been the most comfortable for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something about the formatting. There's a reason why this largely became the way that controllers are to this day. The ergonomics, something to hang on to with your entire hand instead of it just being anywhere from just a couple fingers to like some weird combination of not all of them. This one was actually like you could game with this one for hours.
And
Yeah.
you did with a lot of the games
Yeah.
that
Oh,
were
yeah.
released on the PlayStation, was because I think this was one of the first systems that actually introduced CD.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was.
So
the old black bottoms.
yeah, so this was the data being added to that stuff was a lot more than what was in cartridges.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? Because Jen and I were talking about games, ye olden games, and I don't know how the laundry list was expansive with her. But freaking, we were talking about this, and I just so happened to want to go. What were the graphics look like if I went and looked at some of these games? And at the time, the MLB game that came out on PlayStation 1, I thought the graphics were spectacular, revolutionary, right? And then went back and looked at them now. I was just like, wow, that is just a green screen over what should be the crowd in
Yeah.
Wrigley Field.
Like, even if you run them natively on a computer that, you know, or I mean, not a computer, a screen that would have existed back then, yeah, it didn't age well even in that respect. But I still go back and play some of those games from time to time. My personal favorite being Final Fantasy Tactics or the Legends of Dragoon.
Yeah, the one I play on the Wii is the Yoshi's World. That's the one I go back and play a
But
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that game. And I was like, wait, that's not played on or Sony PlayStation.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, that was Super Nintendo. But
Yeah.
But he did say
But,
Wii,
yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, I don't have a PlayStation anymore. I wish I did, because some of the games I remember playing on that were really fun. So
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of my memories came from the PlayStation.
was this Chrono Trigger?
Crash Bandicoot, the MLB the MLB game, all the Final Fantasies.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
To
no.
each their own, except for him.
Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain.
Final Fantasy.
Oh, you don't like Final Fantasy?
I've never really gotten into it.
They're just, I think
mean-
they're just overrated.
Don't get me wrong. A lot of them are overrated, but it's still a great game. It's just like, I don't know. A lot of them like pumping everything up to 7 level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they don't all deserve that.
I don't it was such a relief come Final Fantasy 9 and 10 to have a character that wasn't emo. Like, if you think of Cloud, who's like, I'm just doing this because I need money. And if you think of 8, Squall, he's just like, everyone had like this emotional downtroddenness to them. And then 9 comes along and you have Zidane, and he's just like, yeah, I'm the hero. And then you have 10, a blitzball athlete. And I never understood the need to have an emotional male protagonist.
I don't know. I was kind of the exact opposite because, like, to me, I mean, I know these are sci-fi worlds and you know, stuff like that, or history sci-fi worlds. But like having a negative viewpoint on having to deal with a disaster seemed realistic to me. It seemed reasonable. So then when they started coming out with happy, peppy-go-lucky characters, oh yeah, or don't let that get you down. I hated it. And that's saying it kind of nicely. Like it was off-putting because it made no sense to me. And I was like, well, how are you gonna face all this and not be a little down? But we're gonna do it anyways. But I'm not gonna like it.
The only games I remember playing, the only 2 games, was my father playing Resident Evil on this, and the damn liquor jumping out from the cop side because you're in the interrogation room, and the Mike, I'm looking at you because this is the game that me and you talk about a lot.
Dude, it's been so long since I've
Clown.
Oh, Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
Twisted Metal.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, Twisted Metal. This is the one. If I had this system, I'd probably be playing that the most. Even though I know the graphics are horrible, I am just picturing
I
the
would jump on
graphics.
that game in a
But
heartbeat.
it's the fun of just driving around with, getting the rockets, getting whatever you got, and just, this would be the one reason why I would get that system. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah. So
You just really want to get that
Controller-wise.
over with.
controller wise, it's largely inspired by the other ones, specifically having a D-pad, having 4 buttons, the start and select button. But it also kind of took off on its own. Layout wise, it actually put an equal distribution of space in between the 4 buttons like plus style. Obviously, it kind of brought it in. But like it's
think
nice.
on this one. Each of their, I think the reason why they did separate this was because each of them were their own buttons.
Yeah.
Versus
Being on the board, it was like I forgot what
A
the term is.
multi-directional sensor.
Yeah.
I think they might have been multiple buttons, but
Yeah, if you take them apart, it kind of it's like actually is its own individual
They each have their
inputs.
own
Yeah.
sensor kind of thing.
but
yeah.
it's just the way the connections work. Like when you're pressing one down, you have the chance, and I think that's the reason why, like on the Sega, you had the corners because you could actually use those.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know that because only a few games actually use that part
Yeah.
of it. But with this, the whole feel of the controller it felt right.
Yeah,
for
it
that
was
time.
it was a happy coincidence, if you will.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then since this is a peripherals episode, this is, as far as I can remember, the first console that had external memories that you could
Yes.
use.
Oh, yes,
You would
yes.
plug it in
Uh,
directly to the console itself at this time.
Yeah, because I remember, I forget what game it was. It might have been PlayStation 2, but I don't remember. But I didn't have a memory card when I first got it, and I was playing a game, so I just fell asleep with the console on, and then woke up like it was, let's say it was Christmas or something, and then woke up the next day, and continued playing.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a nice way to continue doing what you're doing on the cheap, but also warm your room. So, yeah, those are cold nights.
So this one was one of the first to have external memory. It didn't even have, I think, any internal memory for some of the stuff. The PlayStation 2 actually did have some internal memory, but it was only for system stuff.
Yeah. So that was unfortunately only for system stuff. So you still had to have. I think they expanded it to allow not 2 memory cards, but 4 for the PlayStation 2, though. Am I right? Yeah. So there was. You still had to buy them, but it was better.
Well, and then with that was with the PlayStation 2, you could actually use the PlayStation's 1 memory. They it slotted 1 could go to 2, but 2 could not go into 1.
Yeah.
That's
Backwards compatible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't back. Or
But it wasn't. I guess the concept would be forward compatible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I want to make sure we touch on and not miss is that, at least at my recollection, the PlayStation was the first console to feature a multi-tap for controllers.
Feel free to
elaborate what you mean.
yeah.
by
You plug in into the controller port, and you can have more controllers plugged into it.
Oh yeah, so you can have an actual intermediary plug-in, so that way you could plug in others into that. So it's like a USB.
It's a splitter.
Yeah, basically it's a USB bus where you can plug in multiple USBs, and all of them plug into a single one into your computer.
That. I forgot about that. It did have.
I did as well. Yeah. So
a
that was
connector
also
about
a pretty revolutionary peripheral device.
Oh my gosh, David.
I only bring that up because of what I think anticipates coming up next.
So after all this talking about how great the physical design of the Sony PlayStation 1 circa 1994 with its 2 nice comfortable grips, we move on to this I don't want to say an abomination. It's like they saw the footprint of a dinosaur with like the whole 3 toes, and they're like, that has got to be the best idea for a controller design I've ever heard. So we have the Nintendo 64's tri-pronged controller.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I ever played a game where I used the directional pad.
I did.
Yeah.
I tried.
I was thinking, I'm like,
It was
did anybody
weird.
ever use the one on the far left?
Yeah, no.
'Cause-
Like I've tried playing holding that, and then you just
It's
always
just
want to go
awkward.
for the joystick.
Yeah,
so
it's
you're
awkward.
just you're always just holding
GoldenEye.
it like this when you got this other controller right outside your hand.
You're always these.
In a Blitz, you could use the controller.
Oh,
but it was always awkward to use that controller.
Yeah.
I actually learned to kind of do what we do now with that when they had the joystick down there, to actually use my thumb to use that a little bit more, still holding it.
Oh yeah. There's also a trigger underneath it.
Yes,
so you
the
couldn't
Z
even
button.
reach the trigger, the
Yeah.
Z, which we now know it as. Well, it was then. But yeah, you couldn't even reach that unless you were holding the.
it. Yep.
Yeah, so you either had access to the D-pad that you practically never used, or you could have the stick that you're going to always use, and then the
Yeah.
Z button.
I want to say that this.
They also had bumpers, or
Yeah.
at least one bumper.
Yeah, it had the 2, and then it had the Z trigger.
Like to illustrate to everybody how the D-pad and that L bumper was, like in Ocarina of Time, when you wanted to move to your next window screen, you pressed Z to quick move. You didn't even press that L bumper.
No.
It was such a non-use for every, and like you just said that GoldenEye, you just used it how you would regularly use it.
With the joystick, the Z, and then
So no thumb pad.
with the joystick, the Z. I
Okay.
never other than like what Ronnie mentioned of the NFL Blitz, which by the way, amazing game.
Yeah.
Um,
I know Glover, I think you had to use the stick on some stuff because he just didn't work right with
D-pad.
with a D-pad.
Just terrible. Though, if I remember correctly, this is where they allowed you to connect
Rumble packs.
rumble packs, to the back of the controller itself. They had to be battery powered, right?
So
No, the rumble pack had just used whatever.
It was controlled. It fed off the cord.
Okay. I'm
So-
thinking of something else then.
Real quick, do you guys know what those look like?
The rumble packs.
Uh huh.
yeah, it's just a motor with a weight.
Yeah,
half
it's
circles. Right?
it's just like a half circle that spins really fast.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
In fact,
That's
if
how
you,
our phones vibrate.
Yeah, if you remember when we had the controller for the
Seriously?
Forza Horizons,
It's
the
just really
Forza
small.
Horizon custom Xbox controller, and it had the semi, like mostly see-through cover on the yellow for the left-hand holding part. You could actually see
See
that
it.
that
Yeah.
half disc.
I just realized that maybe kids might be watching this, but I'm
for
gonna
the
write down
gaming
what this
news,
feels like.
8:30.
Oh, okay. So with this, I actually think because that rumble pack, I remember you also thought that you could put a memory slot in there because with the Nintendo 64 also had memory, but you couldn't remember certain things.
Yeah, when I was a kid and I would play it, I always wondered where the memory cards that fit into there were.
Yeah.
Then I later learned, it's a rumble pack.
You want to know what I just wrote? Email the show. I'll write back.
It's Santa.
Related.
It's Santa. Poor Santa. That's all I gotta say.
Right. Imagine having to make an iPhone, and you're not Apple. The loops that man has to go through in order to get you guys your Christmas wishes. Oh, just mind-boggling.
Next up.
Yeah. So going away from this one,
But this also was the first game that I played. Conker's Bad Hair Day.
Oh yes.
this one's pretty interesting. It's hard to just. It's like if you thought, what would a gaming controller, the most stereotypical gaming controller you could possibly get from Australia, like what would it look like? And Apple Bandai thought, you know what?
This one.
We got you, fam. We got you.
Australia needs a controller. G'day, mate.
Those buttons are so far spaced.
Yeah, it's
How are
But
supposed
if you
to hold
look
it?
at the bottom, what shapes do those look like?
The buttons.
Yeah, the buttons at the bottom.
I mean, I guess you'd hold it.
power.
No.
The middle one looks
Square, circle, triangle.
Oh, you're right.
Oh,
Yeah, when you see,
I can't see that. I can kind of see the square and circle. I can't see triangle from.
It's
Oh, well, would you look
I
at
just
that?
zoomed into it on my tablet. Yeah, no, that's from left to right, square, circle, triangle. It almost
So-
looks like the Assassin's Creed logo.
I'm guessing you'd hold it like this, and then those buttons.
no, you hold it right, and then
How are you supposed to push those buttons?
that's your start, your select, and all those type of buttons.
Yeah. So for all the people who wanted to game on Apple, well, their console was pretty short-lived, due in part to the Pimpins staging $599 USD, 380 European launch price. The system's controller was very strangely built. It has a D-pad on it, basically, that thing on the left. And then if you've ever looked at an old mouse from the bottom and you turn the little thing at the bottom, this one's laser, but you turn it and then out would pop the center of a deviled egg. And you'd have to replace that every couple weeks, otherwise it starts
Hard-boiled
smelling.
egg, not deviled
Or
egg.
hard-boiled egg.
You would have to clean it every couple of weeks.
Yeah, but basically that's what the underside of a mouse looked like, was that
Have you seen
ball
all?
thing.
Have you seen all the memes of people believing that it was actually a
that was
hard-boiled egg
crazy.
yolk?
Like,
Oh, it's hilarious.
that's crazy. Like, but yeah.
But
so this one, what?
I was gonna say, but with this, the track speed, if it wasn't for the price, I think this, at least the center track, would have been awesome for gaming
Yeah,
because now you have a mouse-like feature.
this one. Yeah, this one's more or less like true 360,
Yeah,
and with the mouse feature on it, like even some controllers nowadays don't have something as effective or accurate, if you will, as such a design.
As a trackball.
But unfortunately, this controller really just did not catch on, or the entire console at that price. Because remember, this is $19.95 USD. I don't have the conversion in front of me.
What
but
did you say the price was again?
$599, so $600.
Oh.
Yeah, that's more expensive back then.
It's an Apple though. It was built in house.
Yeah, that's more expensive back then than the Xbox One was shipping with Connect. Because I was 5, right? Or
Yeah,
was-
the Connect was 5. Yeah.
So that's by a whole $100. That's not including the conversion of then monies to now monies.
Yeah, I think it was like $530 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Apple's always been very highly thought of itself.
Well, yeah, it's because everything's made in house.
Yeah. Not really. All right. But looking at failures, something that at the very least conceptually. Looking at something that's at least conceptually
You're making me feel great.
pretty cool. I thought it was a great idea. In fact, I got not this specific model, but a similar one for the Xbox. The Xbox original for NASCAR was a driving simulator type thing.
remember this.
The
Yeah, I
Microsoft
actually had one.
Sidewinder Force Feedback Wheel circa 1997.
So maybe it was. No, it would. Never mind.
Yeah, so the one I had, obviously not this old, a lot of fun. In fact, my dad probably used it more than me. He's bought me he's probably bought me 2 specific items that are for video games, which is that setup, my version of that setup, and he bought me Cabela's once. But these were both things that he really liked, and he really played a lot.
Honestly, I had a version of this, but it was for the Xbox. This is what taught me to drive. If I'm being 100% honest.
Your dad didn't take you out to drive?
My dad had half a leg, bud.
He still could have taught you how to drive.
No, I learned driving either through the day he let me behind the wheel was we drove around the neighborhood, and
Just finished playing GTA.
no, we were coming back from church. I'd been bugging him for a little bit because he was talking about how his leg was bothering him and he couldn't drive anymore and he was tired. So he was like, we parked outside the apartment complex. He told me to switch. We got in, and that's when I just started driving from there.
That's how it works. Because the first time I ever got to drive to school, because I ended up moving to another city, but I went to the same school because I had a ride. My dad, because he worked pretty close to where we went to school.
Mm-hmm.
So one day he was in pain because of his back, and it was finally my chance to strike, and I managed to convince him to let me put the skills that I developed with my driving simulator on NASCAR to the test, and he finally allowed me to. And yeah, it was pretty good. No car accidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first
That's
driving,
my story.
Sticking to it.
first driving experience was driving back from what was it? We were delivering newspapers in the morning. And my dad's like, all right, here, you can drive. And this isn't just, drive down the block. No, this is a good 30 minutes out.
Wow.
Being 13.
That answers my question.
Yeah, my son's going to be 13. I'm like, all right, kid, I learned. All right, where's the parking lot?
I'm going to take you out at 2:30, 2:45 in the morning,
Right.
and you're going to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best time to learn, too, as long as you don't have night blindness.
Yeah. Mine. Well, like my first driving experience with like learning to drive. I mean, other than the whole little kid sitting in your dad's lap driving down the street, was at I think it was Cruisin' USA or Cruisin' Exotica that used to be at the Round Table.
Yeah.
Like I played that so much when I took the behind the wheel lessons to get my learner's permit. They legit asked, "Have you driven before?" I'm like, "No, I just play a lot of driving games."
Because at the time, a lot of those arcade games, they were with the pedals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that, like it was supposed to be the second lesson that you go on the freeway. They're like, okay, well, you're driving pretty damn good, so. And we had to drop the kid off that had the lesson before me.
Oh yeah, I remember doing that.
So it's like, okay, you're driving pretty damn good, so jump on the freeway here. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm 5 minutes from the freeway, so like 5 minutes of actually driving behind the wheel of a car. And I'm like, okay, going on the freeway. And because they lived out in some rich motherfucker living out in Rancho Marietta. But that's besides the point.
So
It was pretty
since we got off topic a little bit about this, so like my first drive, I've been driving pretty much since 13. I've been driving off and on. So that was the thing, was like I could actually drive. Before I even had a learner's permit, I could drive backwards in my car. I actually did that down the street because there was a big incident with my mother. Got my brothers in the car, drove back down the street backwards. I think at that time I was like 16. Horrible mothering skills, right? But I remember her teaching me how to drive a manual. So when I went and got my license, I got my permit, and I was driving my permit pretty much until I was 18 without taking any classes, because I already knew pretty much how to drive. And my driving was just considered, I had to take people to school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was driving illegally for years. But I mean, that was also the age that we were living in.
Yeah.
But sidetracked.
Yeah, so back
Microsoft.
back to the Microsoft Sidewinder Force feedback wheel.
Yeah. So this was the first. Oh,
I don't know if I had this specific one, but I had some other knockoff version of it. I don't remember what game it was. I want to say it was like Crazy Taxi or something like that. That might be after the fact. Like came out way later. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's I got this just because I was playing whatever game it was at the time a lot, and had to beg my dad. Well, my brother and I both had to beg my dad to get it.
I imagine. So this was the first force feedback wheel. It used motors in the wheelbase to simulate the sort of resistance and pull you'd feel while driving a real car. So nowadays you can spend hundreds, probably realistically thousands, on getting a setup. You'd have all like the gear shifter and all the buttons. And, you could spend so much money on this stuff. It's a lot of fun, but it's more money than I'm willing to dish out.
Oh yeah,
And a lot of times it's more money than it's worth.
Yeah, it's all about the worth that you put into it.
Yeah, if I can see someone this is like what they, well, unless you're streaming and you have the money for it, to build a rig like
unless
this.
you're that level streamer.
Yeah.
Fab Horizon, whatever the hell that damn
Forza.
Forza, yeah. See, I can't even say it right. Fucking game.
5 letters.
Okay.
That's 4 too many.
I told you, my brain keeps useless knowledge, not about a damn game that's been remade how many times?
Yeah, the name is too useful. Don't
Exactly.
Don't expect this.
Moving on.
So, Sony, because other than the joysticks, there really wasn't a significant change between the DualShock and then the original. Yeah. This having 2 joysticks in general is the standard nowadays, not including some mobile configurations, if you will. But yeah, largely it's not significantly changed, but it made all the difference. So yeah.
Well, with this also, it had that analog feature on it.
Yeah. The only thing that sucked was the availability of games that actually used it.
Yeah.
Were kind of limited. It didn't really use it much. Like, I remember setting up emulators, and that's what really showed me how many games you don't really use that for, or at least the ones that I wanted to play.
Yeah.
But it was a nice addition, and the most important thing about it isn't so much what it did then, so much as the groundwork that it laid out. Because if I'm not mistaken, I'll double check real quick, but this is definitely the first instance of the joystick as we know it. Because previously joysticks were, well, not that. They at best you'd get the Nintendo 64 with its like 8-sided implementation. It was a true joystick, no doubt. But if you looked closely, there was actually indentation for it to fit into 8 directional grooves. This one could arguably considered the first true 360 joystick, and largely what we base everything today off of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me scroll. So the DualShock 1997 PlayStation controller. It's pretty iconic. Most people think of this one over the previous PlayStation controller when they think of PlayStation 1, even though this one almost could have just not been on PlayStation. It could have just waited for PlayStation 2 practically.
Yeah, I think with it was kind of a introduction just to kind of test the field.
Yeah, it's a great implementation. It was a little early, but they definitely hit the nail on the head on direction, which, yeah. So moving on, we have something that's kind of not what we just mentioned about being like the future or, all that jazz. The Sega Dreamcast circa 1998. Yeah, this one... Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times on the show in passing. Like the screen, like whenever I would go to somebody's house, they never had the screen, and I never owned it, so I never like understood what it was for.
It's because the screen was actually a feature that you actually had to buy separately.
Yeah,
which I think was $30 in itself.
Ridiculous.
This is very reminiscent of the Duke.
Yeah, so as you see, they have a controller design where the cord comes out of the bottom of the controller. Better than the Sega that we saw earlier coming out of the side, but still an interesting design choice.
I think on Blockbuster you could actually rent one of these, and I think my uncle did rent one of these, and it's just awkward. Because
it was
I remember
big in your hands.
Yeah, it was just really awkward. This is one of the ones that we can forget about.
Yeah, this is one you actually kind of have to shift your hand around to properly use the D-pad and the thumbstick. Like, they had the general idea well, but the implementation of the ergonomics is just excessively bulky. I mean, look how far I'm going to call them fangs come down past the bottom of the D-pad. Like, why? Why do we need all of that?
They were trying to be different.
Who here has hands that they hold a controller and then the bottoms of their fingers go down to here? Like,
have you seen that image? What our hands are supposed to look like if we evolve to our controllers? I'll find it for you.
That sounds haunting, but please do. Yeah, this one it had a bold controller design, that's for certain. But even with the triggers, it's still just not a good experience in all. They had all the right items, except the way that they put them together in the casing was just a nightmare.
So the centerpiece that was in there, the reason why I think it was, so it might have been more, was that certain games, you could upload it to that game, and you could actually continue to play it on the game.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because as I'm looking at this, it actually had a D and A pad.
Oh, yeah. So it had like a mini. Think of it like a Game Boy, except smaller.
Yeah, and
like
I think
with
that's
that being the screen size.
I think that's kind of what this was. There were some games that you could do that with.
Okay.
That integrated with it, and you can continue to play the game, and that's what the idea was with that. Because I knew it was something like that, and so you could. It was also during. This was also during the time of like Gatchaman, all the little
Tomodachi. Yeah, so basically
Tamagotchis.
it was like walking around playing your Tomodachi, and then you wanted to play it on the big screen, kind of like with what the Switch does now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was like because I don't remember if it was Zelda, but I do remember there was a game that did that. Yeah. That you could do that with.
But luckily, after this controller came out. It took a few years, but Nintendo finally actually like thought about controller design. It was like, most of our people don't actually have 3 arms, so instead of designing a controller for that, we're just gonna go ahead and make the controller that everybody loved, the Nintendo GameCube, circa 2001. Great controller. I know I myself have heavily abused the C stick in Super Smash Bros. It's the reason why I've won as many times as I have, which is not that much. But it's a number that's above 0.
It is pretty clever if you think about it, how they kind of wanted to morph into the world of dual analog stick, but didn't want to get away with the C stick, as it were.
Yeah.
Because if you look at I'm sure we'll mention here, the Wii U or any of the Switches, they now have dual analog stick, which that right stick serves the same purpose as the C stick used to.
Yeah, they've just kind of escaped from the C stick being its own unique stick, and it's more just, it's there and you can use it for that, but it's a regular joystick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one, definitely you could see it taking inspiration from the Sony PlayStation controller, but this one kind of took it another step and is, if you only consider where they put groups, like a group of buttons, a joystick, D-pad, other joystick, this one is large, like pretty much where Xbox got a lot of inspiration, if you will. I mean, look at it. It's the exact same setup, except exactly where their place is slightly different, and the controller behind it. The casing's not exactly the same. But yeah, so this one definitely was my favorite controller out of all the Nintendo ones, including ones nowadays. The Wii ones are fun. The Switch ones are pretty much Wii's. They're also fun, but like this, I bought a controller for my Switch that was designed like this, just so that way I'd have it for like Super Smash and stuff. Because it's just, I don't know. To this day, this is still my preferred Nintendo controller.
Yeah, it was pretty much one of the best, if not one of the best, as far as Nintendo goes.
Yeah, I pretty much love this one. I love playing Time Splitters on this.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about this one because like everybody knew it. I'm pretty sure the vast majority of you guys have at least seen it. Yeah, it was just great. And so, as I said before, the Xbox one, although it did come out the same year, it definitely looks like it has heavy inspiration from this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they like last minute changed some stuff to make it look similar because the resemblance is almost uncanny.
I don't know who did this article, but how dare they insult the name of this controller by calling it the fat Xbox?
No,
Right.
it was, though.
I know it was fat, but this is the Duke.
This
yeah.
This is the fat Xbox.
No, this is the Duke.
Whenever I reference it,
Don't controller shame the
I
Xbox controller.
controller shame this because I either called it the big controller or the fat controller.
Yeah.
Most of the damn time I called it the fat controller.
Stand your ground, man.
Well,
No.
it didn't fit in my hands. I was a kid at this time. I was
We all were kids.
I
We
was a
all
young
suffered
lad, and I
Halo
had small
Combat
hands.
Evolved.
This was
You were
You were kids. He and I were high school.
you guys were young adults.
Now they're old men.
Uh-huh.
Who am I kidding? I'm there too.
Yeah, Grandpa.
Yet, never mind.
But no, this controller was a bit rough.
You guys were youngins.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, relatively.
I mean, even my deceased brother-in-law. This was we when they eventually came out with the smaller controllers. We always battled over who got the smaller one, and the punishment was you got the fat controller.
I get it's the fat controller.
That's
the
what we
name
said.
of it.
No,
I'm shaming the article.
Don't shame the article.
I want to say even Microsoft referred to it as the fat
Yeah.
controller. I remember reading that in an article a few years back. Yeah, feel free to Google that. But yeah, so in this design they brought in the black and white buttons, and only had the triggers, as nowadays we're used to bumpers, which is pretty much where black and white went to. But yeah, so this was largely the design that we would continue to have. I preferred the slim one because it fit in my hand better, and 2 because I ended up getting a wireless third-party controller, and they at this time, this was, of course way before 360, but they actually put the black and white buttons where the today bumpers are, so it was already ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So by then I was already practicing with my 4-finger approach for the controller that I now use with the bumpers. So I've been training for this day for a long time.
Okay, so I just looked it up. I just Googled Microsoft Fat Controller or some variation thereof on eBay. It details about Xbox Fat Duke controller. So it's the best of both worlds. So there you go. Leave it at that.
So which one of you guys is accurate? Yes. Yes.
I feel like you cherry picked, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Rigged elections, all that jazz.
Because I guarantee you, majority of those said fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm taking a poll tonight.
I'll just
Well, while you
No,
contemplate how
it's-
you're going to do a pull, I'm going to move on to the next item.
I already know how I'm going to do it.
So later on, as I mentioned earlier, I got
Hot
a
spam.
thinner or a sleeker profile controller for the Xbox original. But in general, there was a lot of different variations of wireless controllers. This one's for the GameCube. That's really the only significant difference other than what you can see aesthetically. It's the same controller. It's just it was designed for wireless functionality. So there's not really anything to go on there. But again, this is the first adaptation, if you will, of what we now consider to be the standard, which is wireless. So unless you just don't like buying batteries, or you don't, you don't like lag in anywhere, so you have to have wired everything. This is the standard nowadays.
Yeah, I remembered this because this came out, I think, also towards the end of the GameCube's life cycle.
Yeah,
Because Xbox came out with one too,
exactly.
and the difference was between this was that you actually had, as we can see in the picture, you actually had channels that you could select for it versus the Xbox, which was, I think it might have had a channel, but a majority of it was just like an infrared type thing.
Yeah, and this was kind of their practice, I guess, for setting up the Wiimote and Nunchuck, which we got for the Nintendo Wii. It definitely, I'd consider this a revolutionary step in terms of gaming peripherals, because if any of you guys have played the Wii, if you ever did anything that was like even relatively using the wand, if you will, you would know that it really is a different experience. Like playing archery, Wii Sports in general, table tennis, like it turned a game that was relatively commonplace into almost a new experience that you could enjoy in front of your TV, as long as you put the band on.
Yeah.
That way you didn't chuck your Wiimote and Nunchuck into your TV.
those are some great videos to watch.
Right? Doing the boxing and it hit your TV. Oh, that'd be terrible.
My brother and I found the way for baseball. Found the way to do the like the fastest pitch you could. You just like that, like barely flick your wrist, and it'd be like fastball. Like, and it was like versus throwing out your arm trying to throw it as fast as you can. You just barely flick your wrist.
I liked they added a high accuracy adapter later, so that way you could do things like golf and the slight movement of your wrist would be registered. That was pretty interesting. I liked it a lot.
I just found it funny how many games you could play from your couch, even though this was, as
It was
you mentioned,
interactive.
It was meant to
Yeah.
get you up and going, which you could see from a lot of the add-ons, if you will, that they designed for this peripheral device. An add-on for an add-on, if you will.
Like Wii Fit.
Yeah, the tennis racket. You could put it on a board, so that way you're actually, instead of just holding it in your hand and trying to line it up. Yeah, there's so many ways. Because I mean, it's not like you could verify. However, there is a device that that did actually make it so you had to get up and do stuff. And I'm gonna skip over it for a second. We'll go back. It was the Kinect that came out on originally on the Xbox 360, circa 2010. This one, pretty fun. It had its flaws, which we'll go over in a minute, but focusing purely on when it was working as it was intended to, it was a lot of fun. Like the game Just Dance was probably one of my favorite to play to it. I don't really care for the game, but playing it on this one was truly an experience. It wasn't just sitting down. Like nowadays, I think if you play it on a game, not on the Switch pretty much, you have to use a controller and you're just like doing stuff. It's terrible. But this one, you're literally your whole body. You had to match the poses exactly. On the Switch, you just have to do the controller thing.
Yeah.
So what were some games that you guys liked playing on this, if you ever tried it?
Just Dance.
Yeah.
That all the Just Dance parties we did.
Didn't we do that for your birthday once?
Mm-hmm.
I remember bringing Rock Band over, but that's not Kinect.
I think the Just Dance. I did the adventure games.
Yeah,
I remember doing the adventure games. At time, our real frustration was they didn't have as many games out there with it, and then some of the games just didn't work well with it.
Yeah.
I think. Oh gosh, what was that game? I can't remember the game. There was the game that you were your avatar, but you were big people. You were your avatar, and you were macromanaging little people.
Tieflings.
Yes. You could actually use that to control with. Later on, they came out with an update to where you can use it to actually control your guy and do stuff with it. Oh, dude, I played the hell out of that game. I was so mad that they never finished it. So, but yeah.
Yeah, with the Kinect, unfortunately, it just didn't quite pick up. And its greatest failing was that...
or body registry.
Was body registry, especially with people with darker pigmented skin. Once it reached a certain darkness, if you will, it just wouldn't register you as existing due to I believe it was the infrared technology they were using. Darker pigments of color absorb more light rays and more infrared energy than
others.
So unfortunately, that aspect of the technology ended up failing it. But yeah, so as we talked about earlier, the Xbox 360 S, I'm going to say Slim, circa 2005, largely pretty nice. Has the battery pack on the back because it came wireless. Usually had to special or go out of your way to find wired. And then the plug-in at the bottom for chat, because this was definitely the beginning of the age of multiplayer and communication through gaming.
Modern Warfare 2.
Exactly. But other than ergonomic improvements...
Not with that.
The 360?
Modern Warfare 2 is 360 era.
Oh, 360.
Yeah.
But no, I was looking at the date.
Oh, yeah, no, not that.
That's what,
but that was
2005 is what I was...
This controller design, whether it's the placement of the parts on the controller or the ergonomics itself, is more or less survived the entire 360 line, if you will, or the time. So there's not really too much to add to that. Other than they put the Xbox guide button, but that's about it. Otherwise, ergonomically, it's nicer. But yeah. Oh yeah, PlayStation Move. The easiest way to say it is, hey, the Wii looked cool. Can we do it? And the answer was no.
Yeah, I remember Mike picking up this because he had the PlayStation. Or no, he picked this.
I picked it. It came
with the PlayStation
because I got SOCOM.
Yeah, and
it sucked.
These things were horrible. I think we spent almost a half hour trying to get everything calibrated so we could play the game, and it just kept on disconnecting.
Yeah, they pretty much, the only good that came out of these was for usage in PlayStation VR, like in 2016. which that also has largely been considered a flop. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think I am. But yeah, so the VR was pretty cool, but only in concept. If you wanted a real VR experience, you're better off actually buying a legitimate setup. But the Wii U came out to supplement the Wii itself in 2012. David probably has the most experience out of all of us with this. You have anything to say about it?
It was pretty cool because this acted as either a second screen or like not a second screen, but necessarily, but more like you could cheat, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Because like when you're playing Mario Kart, you can activate the map and see where everyone's position is on the map. You could see everyone's position. With Super Smash Bros, it acted as a second screen. So if you had 6, 7, 8 people playing, you could be kind of tucked away playing it on the screen like a Game Boy, or you can, play with other people. If you weren't playing, it acted as a like health bar simulator. I think it was really cool. What bothered people about it was how bulky it was. It's literally a tablet, right, with buttons.
It was a bulky precursor to the Switch.
It was so useful for all the games that came out on it, like especially Mario Maker. Like you could not do Mario Maker on any other game console than the Wii U.
Well, that was the one thing that this just made me feel like they didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't know if they wanted to continue making a handheld console or just make a actual console or like a handheld system like their Game Boys or something, or if they just wanted to create a console. That was my one problem with this, was that it was so in between and just how bulky it was. I never really liked this one.
Yeah, and also it is the addition of the touch sense pad in the middle. That adds a lot of functionality. I haven't really played PlayStation too much, but I've heard about the different things that people have reported being able to do in games with it, and see, that's revolutionary.
Because I think this was also one that you picked up too, Mike. I think you picked up one of these.
I picked up the PlayStation 4.
And
I think I got it on clearance at Sam's Club,
but even then, it was just only a few games that
I got it for Twisted Metal Black.
Yeah,
I literally bought it for one game.
Yeah, and because that's why I thought I knew you only had one, so it a lot of the games only really used it once.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. But again, just like to be the the bumpers or the tabs, whatever you want to call them, on the back. So there's a selection of paddles. Thank you. There's a selection of up to 4 paddles, which I personally just use 2 on mine, which I control with my ring fingers. And I substitute them for A and B respectively from right and left, but you can customize all 4 to have any other button mapping, and there's some special ones as well. Hey, David.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't do anything.
I didn't touch anything either. It kind of just happened. Oh, did it go all the way down?
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps doing that.
Anywho, yeah, so there's a lot of customization options in terms of sensitivity, and the triggers, you can even set them to different capacities, if you will. You can make it so that way it's either full pull, half pull, or immediate. Like it's basically a button.
yeah, this was one my son has been wanting. Is this controller?
Make sure you get the Elite 2, not the Elite 1.
Yeah,
Or wait for
They're
the
just-
Halo 1 to come out.
they're so expensive.
They are.
They're like $100. They're $100 and something bucks.
I was a
Really.
different man financially when I bought that.
So the thing that bothered me about this controller is like everybody got pissed off about how people were using modded controller in like Modern Warfare and stuff, and then Xbox just went out and made pretty much a moddable controller.
Where
yeah,
there's some
but
markets. There's
also
yeah.
no. I would say that yes, it is modded in that it's a modification from a standard controller, but also Like it's not like excessively modded. It's more fine tuning the performance as opposed to adding like the trigger mod where you pull the trigger and it just sends the signal that you pulled the trigger super fast. Like it doesn't do that, but it's a mechanical feature that makes it so that way the second you touch or pretty much touch the trigger, it's already bottomed out.
Gotcha.
So you're not wrong in the technicality that it is a modified controller compared to standard, but I would argue that the degree of modification is more for fine tuning your performance rather than like getting an edge up on the game in an unfair manner.
Yeah.
But it's definitely paid to have a better experience.
Yes,
It's
most
heavier,
definitely.
which is something I greatly enjoy. Like much better heavier in my opinion. But as we were talking about previously with the Wii controllers, when the Switch came out, it decided to come out with these little guys, the Joy-Cons.
So honestly, I think this is probably the best thing that they came out with, even though they're small.
Yeah, they're not quite as good in terms of capturing the 100% of your true movement.
Yeah.
Like I was playing Surgeon Simulator, and it would have issues with getting locked into certain orientations, so you'd have to go and reset it, which really took away from the experience. It would be nice. I don't believe that they sell these, but it would be nice if they sold a more sensitive or more accurate version externally, preferably at the same size that you could click in at least.
Yeah, it would be nice if they updated the gyro sensors, and that's probably what it is. The gyro is just
they're just so tiny though. They can only fit so much tech in there.
Yeah.
Which instead of updating their screen, it would be nice if they updated the responsiveness in these controllers in the upcoming release of Switch version 3. I believe we're on. Yeah, the first one had like the first one had regular. It was about 2 hours of battery life.
Yeah.
The second one, all they did was update the battery life to about 5 hours, depending on what game you're playing. And now this one's supposed to keep 5 hours, I think, maybe 9, but depending on the game you play. But it's upgrading the graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have any comments about the Nintendo Switch. It's just, if from looking at it, the Switch controllers, the Joy-Cons anyways, they look really tiny.
That's
They are.
because
Yeah,
they
they
are.
But they also have they turn sideways, and you do them like that, or they have the controller that they slide into, and
Yeah, I
that's
saw
a
it.
little more. Yeah, it's sitting on by my computer, or they attach onto the side of the screen.
Yeah.
This console itself.
And then last on our list is the most recent controller to have come out. It is largely, it's not significantly different than its predecessors, but there are some features that I did forget to mention until just now that came up in my head. We're going with the Sony PlayStation 5 DualSense controller circa 2020.
Say what you want about this controller, but with how like social Xbox wants to have all their content, this was the controller they should have made. Say what you want, but PlayStation 5 knocked it out of the park with this controller. That start button is solely for the menu. That center space is all does everything you can think of that you want that space to do for the controller. The main menu, whatever. That select button is literally a share to whatever button that captures your screenshot, and it captures your audio from your microphone and from the speaker that's in that controller. And it has a built-in mute button, so if something happens in a game that you're recording, you don't want your voice to pan out, you can mute it. I mean, say what you want about this controller, but PlayStation knocked it out of the park for a social climate that we're in with video games.
Yeah, Game Boy has definitely checked a lot of the boxes on this one. It is...
You mean PlayStation? You said Game Boy.
Well, yeah, I know. He's the one who said it.
Oh. I know
Here,
him
let me reiterate.
Yeah.
David has definitely
There you
checked
go.
off a lot of the boxes on this one.
And I think you're as far as I know, you're the only one that's actually used it. So, as far as us,
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
right. You're the only one who, out of us, that has been able to have access to a next gen console.
Well,
due to your brother's.
yeah.
Due to your brother's.
out of us,
I made like 1770s Great Britain and I taxed it since he was playing it.
That's fair, and I would do the same if I could.
But yeah, they make it super easy for content creators to put their stuff on Twitter and on YouTube. They have the longest back record time out of both either Xbox or Microsoft. You can record an hour's worth of content and upload it to YouTube. They have a more detailed video editor on their Sony like editor, whatever. I mean, they made it for content creators, and they made it super simple, and you could do all this shit from the controller.
To be fair to Xbox, I will ask a couple questions. One, you say you could record up to an hour. Is that if you preempt it, saying, hey, for the next hour record, or is it you can record all the stuff you already did up to an hour before?
Is she on the PS5?
no.
Okay. So if I pressed that
Yes.
share button, there's an option on the bottom that says record recent gameplay, and you can select up to an hour.
Wow. Okay, that is very impressive. And do you know about the Xbox's current gen Xbox Series X's parameters on how it does that and how long?
5 minutes for standard definition, 10 minutes for 10 minutes for standard definition, 5 minutes for high definition.
Yeah, Xbox is definitely lacking, especially seeing as how that's a feature that they came out with first, and has seen so little upgrade. Yeah, PlayStation, they've definitely done a lot of good on this.
Now, I'll give it to you because it is still not a comfortable controller.
Yeah.
It is not a game. When I played Spider-Man and everything, it wasn't something I could sit down for a length of time like I can with the Xbox.
With the Xbox controller, it was focused more for the ergonomics of like general hands. With the PlayStation controller, a lot of people who play a lot of PlayStation, or at least that I've talked to, it was kind of like a something you had to just get used to. And once your hand like crippled itself basically to its shape, then it became comfortable by default. But like, yeah, although the design is better in terms of ergonomics, right? You would say so than past iterations.
I think it's a lot.
It actually has curvature back into it, so it like goes into the nape of your hand.
But you're still trying to grab the controller from the prongs.
I'm just
as
saying
opposed.
better.
It's a little bit better than the DualShocks of the past, but I'm just saying it's still not as comfortable because the controller is designed for you to grab it from those prongs on the bottom, not from the control. You're essentially hold your arms up. If it's like pulling an individual by their arms rather than their shoulders. You're not going to get as much tension because if I grab him like this, he can just yank himself out from me. As opposed to his shoulders, I have more of a grasp, like holding on to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's probably for example.
From the controller's perspective, it's an improved in ergonomics. The rumble sensors in the triggers, R1s, R2s, L1, L2, seems to be greatly improved. It seems like overall the experience is a lot better.
I just want to know how many times did you have to clean up after you touched this controller?
What do you mean?
What about before you touched the controller?
That's what I mean.
What do you mean?
Continue.
We'll leave that to your imagination. But yeah, overall, they definitely hit one out of the park. It'd be nicer if it was more comfortable in the hand, like the Xbox controller that has been consistently anti-hand fatigue. But overall, for the progress they did make, it looks quite significant, and I look forward to being able to try it after Jeremy finally learns how to share.
But that's also my thing is that Xbox has always been like that, though.
Yeah.
They want you in front of their consoles longer.
Except for the fat controller.
Well,
they learned their lesson
first.
fast. Sony PlayStation is still like, hey, it has cool stuff, so maybe we don't have to like actually let you enjoy holding it.
But I believe is Xbox going the way of PlayStation, right?
there's talks about them kind of doing some sort of hybrid. Their biggest thing has been the ergonomics of their controllers, so I can't imagine them willfully like getting rid of that particular aspect of it. But like, that's so terrible. That's kind of what my hands do, except it's not like weird looking like that.
I just think that
Spock hands.
Xbox has the space for a lot of that stuff to put on there already.
Well, they totally could.
They have they make a few adjustments, but the reason why I think Xbox's controllers have always been a big hit is because it's more comfortable in your hand, and it's always been more comfortable besides the Fat Boy. Actually, to be truthful, even the Fat Boy, even though it was bulky as hell, it still felt a little bit better than the PlayStation.
I hear you.
To be truthful,
You're not wrong. I was prepared to diss you, but you came back. So
yeah,
it in my hands.
Honestly, we joke around about the Fat Boy and the Duke, but
the Duke Boy,
even being as big as it was, it still felt comfortable in your hand. And I honestly, that's the one thing I love about Xbox's controllers, is because it always feels comfortable in your hand. You can literally sit there and play for hours. Even when you had the Xbox text feature on the little chat thing on the bottom.
That one I had some difficulties with, but it was still, even with that equipped, it was better than the the PlayStation.
Yeah, it's for the most part, hands down, I think the Xbox has the better, always will have the better controllers.
The basic design that they're going to go with, I can't imagine them changing it. At most, they might make it slightly wider.
Yeah.
But the parts that your hands are in contact with, and the most important parts, I can't imagine them messing with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only honorable mention I have right now, and it's just a quick one, I promise, is like Rock Band controllers, where they brought like guitars and
Well, those were
drum sets.
actual peripherals.
Yeah,
These were just the controllers through history. Those were actual peripherals.
I did say gaming peripherals, so those I intended to be an honorable mention because I knew they weren't on the list. But a lot of fun, and hours upon hours of entertainment. I remember a friend of mine had a birthday, and he really wanted to play them, so I brought my entire set over to his residence, and we had a lot of fun with that.
Lucky guy.
Did he really?
Well, he asked me to borrow his drum set or my drum set for a couple years. So
for a couple years.
Well, it was a gift at that point.
Actually, I think I was at that party.
Yeah, you were.
I think that's when I first met you.
So
That one.
Good times.
We'll talk about mental illness another time.
So, Mike, what is your final thoughts on this?
There's a lot more controllers throughout the things than I'm sorry, I cannot stop staring at that.
Can you please change that? That's why I'm not looking over that way. It's just unsettling.
Okay, they don't see it, but we still do.
But there were a lot more controllers than I realized there were.
It has been a lot of iterations, trial, and most certainly error to get to where we are now.
Yeah. I didn't realize that there were so many different controllers prior to the NES. I was familiar with most of them, if not all of them, after that. I think there might have been one or two that I wasn't familiar with.
The Apple.
Yeah,
And this
there's
was
the Apple one, the Octagon thing. I don't remember
I knew
that.
the Octagon thing. I wanted one of those.
And this was pretty much only console
Yeah.
controllers, not including ones on PC, because there's more.
Well,
Yeah.
we should say this is more geared towards mainstream console.
Exactly.
Because the Octagon was considered kind of one that you could really use with it.
Yeah.
Versus some of the other ones. Like
There
the
w-
Power Glove, the gun that we mentioned that wasn't on
Yeah.
here.
Just largely console
I forgot
focused,
about
because
the
that
Power
was
Glove.
the
Which never worked.
Or the for the NES, there was for the track and field game, the mat.
Oh, yep. I remember that.
good times.
They even came out with for Xbox, they came out with a DDR pad.
I remember.
Yeah.
that.
How did I
We'll have a
failed you
whole
guys.
new episode dedicated to actual peripherals.
Um,
But yeah, that's my final thoughts.
all right, David,
Yeah, controller's cool. Yeah, all that jazz.
your my final thought is just it's just interesting to kind of see how stuff's been going over the years. Especially each of these are kind of going with the systems, but now we're kind of in a copy paste type thing. You know, we change little stuff here and there. It'll just be interesting if someone makes a big push to kind of like where we've been going with VR and stuff like that. To actually, I would love to see Nintendo push that because they're almost already there. And to actually, because they had that with the Wii, where they had that infrared stuff. So I think if Nintendo can actually push that a little bit further, I think they'll be the next big. I think that might bring them back on the top. And if they can get better systems.
Yeah.
So
As you guys have seen or heard, Game Peripherals, has definitely experienced quite an evolution over time. As the pattern shows, once a good idea comes out, a lot of people copy it until something revolutionary comes out, and then it diversifies for a second. But it tends to always focus on a specific configuration, and that's kind of where we find ourselves right now, is the 4 buttons, 4 bumper trigger setup, 2 sticks, and a D-pad. And so we're just waiting now, I guess, for the next evolution, which could be VR, or it could be something completely different. And I'm sure, just as you guys are, I'm very excited to find out what that is and how terrible it's going to be. Until it's improved.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on. Is it turned up all the way? There we go.
no.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Strike Team Game Presents the Level 4 Experience. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast into gaming peripherals. Join us next time when we talk about other stuff and other pre-scheduled episodes. If you haven't already, please make sure you check out the channel description for all the links, link trees, and ways you can contact us and get in touch with each and every one of us down below. Make sure whatever listening service you're listening to us on, you leave us a review, please. We listen and love every single one of our supporters, and thank you for all the reviews and support we've gotten since endeavoring on this. Join us next time for potentially more gaming news and other pre-scheduled episodes. I've been here with
Irishguy, aka Mike.
This is Doc.
And Zmainia.
everybody. Have a good day, have a good night, have a good week. I've been Game Boy. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.